Please no brother 昔々悟空を見逃しクラクラ Please no brother 結果一族滅び夢幻のことすあの体勢からの返し侮りがたし鼻から第4形態フリーザより1回変身オン設定見せた変身1回 Yo Yo 最後は太陽そりゃないよ燃え尽き太陽 Yo Yo 最後は太陽そりゃないよ燃え尽き太陽クーラーフリーザのブラザードカンドカンドカンバトルにクーラー来るぶちかませ超快感ドラゴンボール Z ドカンバトル全世界同時キャンペーン始まる
Hey yo, what's up? You gotta stop and listen. It's time to open your eyes. It's coming to you.
クーラーフリーザのブラザー来たらメタルクーラーフリーザのブラザー吸収復讐メタルクーラー機械になって得たぜ復讐の機械無限に増殖絶望を感じたあのショック打ちた力捕まえた悟空とベジータ吸われた悟空とベジータ全力出した奴は非道かます瞬間移動奴は非常ボディは頑丈無限に再生絶望の戦場無限に増殖見せろクーラーフリーザのブラザードカンバトルにメタルクーラー来たるぶちかませ超快感ドラゴンボール Z ドッカンバトル全世界同時キャンペーン開催中
Hey guys, it's Mike here, and welcome to another edition of LSM Monday, here on Laughingstock Media. How's it going? And today, well, I welcome all of you to yet another edition because we're going to be doing, well, what we often do here on LSM Monday, which is having fun, hanging out, and making some videos about, well, I guess you'll find out over the course of the stream. But before I get into that, let me thank some of you guys who are already showing up here early, the early gang, as it were, I guess we could say. And so we have Nick's Hex, for example, Nick Morrison. What is it with Nick's? Brett Shell. And I'm looking forward to seeing even more of you guys in the chat as I go along because we're going to be doing some, we're going to be having some fun here. But if you're here, you're stopping by, could you leave a like? Because that way we'll be able to have even more viewers see this stream because it'll get promoted more because the more interaction, the more promotion, and then in turn, the more people we can have on the stream so you guys can see when I'm making these videos and you guys can join the fun conversation too along the way. You know, ask me some questions along the way. I'll get to the ones I'm able to in time and try and give you guys the best of my answer. You know, it's like taking the fun aspects of the Q&As, taking the fun aspects of recording a video, and then everything else in between and infusing them together here on Laughingstock Media. How's it going? And we also have Fernando Velasquez, Kyle Coro, and Synth Gaming. A synth? Oh, I'll have to report you to the Brotherhood of Steel. Are you one of the Terminator type synths, or are you one of the ones from Blade Runner who, thinks maybe you're still actually a human? And then you're going to have a massive twist in your narrative that will reveal to you that you, in fact, or not. I guess we'll find out in the future. But yeah, I'm going to be recording at least one video here tonight during the course of this stream. Maybe more than one. I always have a million videos planned, and if I can, get them knocked out while I'm talking to you guys and having fun, then why not do that, right? I figured, if I would be spending this time recording a video, then why not do it live so that other people can watch? I've always wanted to do behind the scenes stuff here on the channel, and so the advent of streaming returning to my series and to my channel one more time, it's definitely making that a lot easier, accomplishing multiple tasks in one. Because last time I used to stream, last year when I was coming back to the channel, most of them with Josh, and some of them just on my own, and really record videos when I was doing that, right? So, I wasn't really making videos at the time. I hadn't fully decided on if I wanted to return to crafting videos, unless I guess technically you count a live stream as a video. It just happens live for the people watching it, and then afterward, you guys are watching. Hey guys, thank you so much for watching this stream after it aired. I appreciate it. It's always pretty cool to see that so many of you watch afterwards. So I feel like speaking directly to you. I don't know how often people who stream do that, but you guys are awesome too, because you might not have seen it live, but hey, you're still watching nonetheless. You're still participating in the fourth dimensional aspect of how things work. Well, I guess you are watching at the same time as speaking anyway now, aren't you? So thanks for showing up, everyone live and everyone in the future. Don't take any shots when I say in the future, by the way, or else you'll end up in the morgue. You'll end up in an ocean of your own alcoholic libations that you are consuming at that particular point in the space-time conjunction. In the future. And yes, this actually is a canon stream, True Sinister, which I always thought you had a really cool YouTube channel name. Maybe I should have thought of that instead of Laughingstock Media. That sounds like a really credible channel. I'm sure that so many people who have never seen my channel, have seen my channel name, been like, yeah, I'll watch that guy. I'll watch a guy whose channel is literally called Laughingstock Media. That seems like a really good expenditure of my time. Maybe that's what happens. It's not like I made the name when I was going to do the channel. I guess technically, but, I had that name from before. I've talked about that in the past on my channel. Maybe I'll talk about it again in the future because nobody watched that video. So every time I say it, it's new for someone. And Tyrannotherium. That's a pretty cool name, too. Anthony Murchison. That sounds better than what I just said. Like you're a merchant sailor, fighting off pirates in the depths of international waters, and the pirates of Blackwater. Let me know if you guys have ever seen that show. I used to watch that when I was a kid, and if I remember correctly, it never had a conclusion like half the shows I liked when I was a kid. I actually have one I've always wanted to review on this channel, by the way, which is Wolverine and the X-Men. I wasn't a kid at the time it came out. I don't remember what year it came out. If it came out in like the 2010s, I was an adult by then. But, the fact of the matter is that was a great show that didn't have a conclusive ending. I don't think, did any of the X-Men shows have a conclusive ending? That's a question. The original series from the 90s, X-Men Evolution. I guess it was somewhat conclusive. But there were still things left open for sure. There were some of the things that resulted with like Mystique, for example. I did not quite enjoy how they resolved it, if it ended the way I remember or understood at the time as a kid, because I remember Doug Walker in his review on, I don't remember if it was Disney Sun or something like that. I remember he reviewed X-Men Evolution. It was either him or another channel. And he talked about how he was like, wow, that was a really cool way that they resolved the whole Rogue, Mystique, and Nightcrawler storyline stuff. But for me, when I was a kid, I was like, that's kind of unsatisfactory. Like, that's how you resolve the storyline, by basically giving us a non-ending, or maybe a too finite of an ending, depending upon your perspective. But we'll see. Maybe they'll bring it back, the next time Black and Fist uploads. X them. Yeah. Um, no, I think the X-Men would still be a good name in this day and age. It just would mean something totally different. Just like Transformers. But I'm not going to get into that. Okay. Do you have a PS5? Says Lupe Justinian. Thanks for showing up. No, I don't. I only have the original PlayStation, which is actually behind me somewhere that you can't see. I really want to change my camera angle in the future because, I don't know. I feel like it would be better served angled differently so you guys can actually see the background. This chair is big. I do appreciate that Ewin Racing sent it to me. Just having a little bit of fun. But yeah, I appreciate that they sent it to me. But nonetheless, I do think it is rather large. If I'm going for like a visual thing, I don't quite know if I need this whole section right here, even though I guess it's the style of a racing chair, as it were. I'll have to take their word for it about the racing aspect, because I have not exactly sat in a race car to tell you that these are the exact same type of chairs they would have. I suspect they probably are slightly different. What are my thoughts on the Monsterverse? I'm guessing that you mean the current one with the Godzilla movies and the Kong movies and everything like that. Overall, it's kind of eh. Like, I actually reviewed Kong or Godzilla versus Kong, or Kong versus Godzilla, whatever the hell the new one was, over on my second channel, Laughingstock Cinema. And I think I talked about the entire Monsterverse up until then, because I actually watched all of them leading up to Godzilla versus Kong, because I didn't really see any of them. I saw Kong Skull Island when it came out in theaters, but I didn't see the Godzilla movies. I didn't really have any interest in the American ones. And so I watched both those, and then I watched Kong versus Godzilla, and I enjoyed it. I thought it was fun. I mean, all of them could be better. Like, Godzilla versus Kong is one of those movies, if I remember correctly, that, like, basically, it's kind of like the Transformers. Pretty much all of these series would be better without humans in them, or at least keeping the humans to an absolute minimum. But I guess for some reason they don't want to do entirely CGI movies because they think that the audience won't connect, despite the fact that Pixar and Disney have been doing it for decades. But I don't know. They got to shove in 11 from Stranger Things and Quicksilver, the bad one from the MCU, and well, Kick-Ass. That's what I'll usually remember him as. Funny enough, both the two male leads in the original Kick-Ass became Quicksilver, and the one who was in Fox was better, despite the fact that Fox literally, it's funny enough, they shoved Quicksilver into Days of Future Past at the last second, just because they're like, nah, we're going to have Quicksilver before the Avengers does. And then, despite it being rushed in there, ironically, it was still significantly better than the one in the Avengers. Interesting. But then again, kind of hard to beat Days of Future Past. I mean, it beats every single MCU movie as far as I'm concerned. So definitely a much better culmination film than Avengers Endgame, that's for sure. Way more emotional ending for me. Iron Man and everything that happened with him, I'm assuming everyone saw it, but I'm still not going to tell you. That was not as, I mean, honestly, if they had just followed the comic, which I have behind me, like they, which you still can't see, they would have made a much better movie instead of like time travel and all this other stuff, like alternate Thanos. And like, I don't care about alternate Thanos who doesn't have the character development. I want current Thanos who gets more character development. But yeah, let's chop his head off in the first 5 minutes of the movie. That's what a twist! Except the twist isn't at the end. I guess technically in the happening, the twist wasn't at the end either, but you get the point. Godzilla versus Badonkey Kong. Yamcha versus Mecha Frieza. Yamcha from the Buu Saga. I guess it depends on what you're talking about here. So if we're talking about the anime, you can make an argument that Yamcha, after he dies in the Buu Saga, when he's on the Grand Kai's planet, would beat Frieza. Some people think that all the humans and everyone are stronger than Frieza by the Cell Saga, particularly after the 3-year gap. It depends on how you scale the series. Like, if you think that the characters, by the time the Buu Saga and even Battle of Gods, in their base form, are not as strong as Frieza, and you assume that all the humans are somewhere equivalent to the base form Saiyans or in between their base and Super Saiyan, then you can make an argument that none of them could beat Frieza except for with special techniques and things. Like, Goku in Battle of Gods would defeat Frieza easily if he just used Kaioken times 2, I'm guessing at that point, even by the scaling they have in that movie. And a lot of people will say, well, Beerus, he was just suppressed. And so Beerus just assumed based upon suppressed power, but it's like, no, Beerus understands what suppression is. He's literally the king of suppression. Like, he completely understands that Goku and these other characters are suppressed. Plus, let's be honest, Goku also was training on King Kai's planet. And so he has to automatically output an amount of ki around him at all times that will allow him to be under that gravity and stuff like that. So, yeah, like, it's a whole can of worms, but nonetheless, Goku would stomp Frieza in his base form with the Kaioken at the very least by Battle of Gods. Like, even if you think that Goku is 20 times stronger than he was on Namek by the Buu Saga, then all he has to do is Kaioken times 2 to match Frieza and times 3 to beat him. Even worse than he did on Namek when he was a Super Saiyan, because he would be a 180 comparative to a 150. He might even beat Mecha Frieza at that point. I mean, you could definitely make the argument, yeah. But that's also lowballing it. You could say that Goku was 80 million in the Buu Saga, and he was 119,999, many nines, 0.9s, and still be weaker than Frieza. But again, depends on how you scale. Some people would say that Pui Pui is way stronger than Frieza on Namek, and that Goku and Vegeta could finger flick him in base by that point. So all of them fit. That's the thing with Dragon Ball's power scaling. It's choose your own adventure, but people like to claim that it's 100% canon, whatever they say. And if you say something different than them, well, they'll use the magic word to make it all go away, which is... Oh, come on. You're ruining my joke. Hold on. There we go. This will be funnier. Just gotta zoom out a little bit more. We're doing it live. Nah, this one's better. If you say that their opinion, if you say an opinion that is different from someone else's when it comes to power scaling with Dragon Ball, well, let's just say that they can make all of your opinions go away in one easy word. Debunked! Because all they have to do is make a debunk video and claim everything that they're saying is 100% fact and everything you're saying is 100% wrong, and they are clearly the victor. That's how those videos work, right? Because that's basically how it was always conveyed to me. Oh, hey, let's take a look at the chat right here, by the way, even though I'm vanished. Who turned off the lights? And I do see that we actually just got our first super chat of the night. So thank you so much, Xavier de God. And I will be showing your super chat once I actually can get this to work. Nope, that's definitely not it. Oh, maybe that is it. Hold on. Also, I don't know why it keeps showing me the top chat. So hopefully I'm not missing any of your guys' chats, because YouTube auto defaults to top chat instead of live chat. And I want to see what everyone here has to say. So let's fix that. And then, still the wrong one. Almost there. Wait for it. Here we go. So Xavier de God, thank you so much. Your super chat of $5 where you said, I would have loved it if the Earthlings and Piccolo learned the Kaioken, or if they kept them stronger than base or Saiyans in their base. Yeah, that's a great thing to point out. And I think I did a video a little while back on my channel called Why Don't the Other Characters Know Kaioken? I actually originally did it years before that, if I remember correctly, on Geekdom 101's channel. That was our first collab we did, even before the Why is Raditz So Weak, or What If Raditz Survived, I think we actually did. Years before another popular What If Raditz Survived happened. They include many parts more than what we did. But the fact of the matter is that, yeah, in terms of that, it would have been awesome to see the other characters learn the Kaioken. However, I do have a video that I'm going to come out with sometime in the future talking about whether or not Kaioken was necessary anymore at that point in the story, and one of the biggest reasons why the characters may have in fact stopped using it. So basically, let me give you a little sneak peek at that. Or I could even record that video here tonight. Do you guys want me to record that video here tonight? I got at least one other video planned. So like I said, you know, spur of the moment, we're doing it live. Make sure to drop a like, guys. I want to see as many people here as possible when I start to record my videos. And I'll talk about why the characters may have stopped using the Kaioken in a video here. Because there is one major thing that's actually brought up in the Dragon Ball manga and even the anime, particularly around the time of the start, actually, more or less, of the Cell Saga. And I'll be getting into that in the video. So, you know what? Let's do that. You inspired me to record that video here tonight. Among others, we'll see. Because one thing I also recorded, not sure if you guys are going to be interested to see me record it. One thing I actually watched, I'll amend my statement, is I rewatched the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movies within the past few days. So I was thinking of recording a review for each of those at some point. Whether I do it on here or not, we'll see. And discussing my thoughts on them. You know, there are certain movies in that collection that I still think are great. And then there are other movies in there that I truly appreciate how good and bad they are simultaneously. So I will be discussing perhaps that in the stream as I go along. Why was Rad So Weak was my first Geekdom 101. Oh, cool. Yeah, it is funny, you know, it is always really interesting to me. A lot of times when I'm with Danny, like hanging out in public or something, whenever we get together, a lot of times people will recognize him and then they'll have no idea who I am. Even though I've been on so many videos of his over the years, and he's been on my channel a bunch of times, he's promoted my stuff a million times, there'll be people like, who are you? I've never seen or heard of you before. Laughingstock Media? What's that? It's like, are you actually a Geekdom 101 fan? Do you just somehow magically avoid every single collab he's done, at least with me? Questions. Who's got the questions? What the hell is in my pocket right now? No idea. I had something in my pocket when I washed these pants. It happens. Do you think Krillin using Solar Flare on Frieza and throwing a Destructo Disc at his head would have won the fight? Probably. I mean, he cut through his tail. I don't see why he wouldn't be able to cut through his face. Sound logic. Spider-Man 2002 is your favorite movie of all time. Interesting that you don't like the second one more. Curious. Curious and curiouser, as they say. But when I do my reviews on Laughingstock Cinema, make sure to check that out, guys. You can actually see it up there. There's the @ All you gotta do is go to that channel, give it a subscribe. I actually just released, let me do a shout out for my own channel, a shameless plug inside of a shameless plug, inside Dragon Ball GT. And I'll be showing you my Laughingstock Cinema channel. Okay, so as you guys could see, my second channel here is Laughingstock Cinema. How's it going? And on there, you could see right here, I actually just released a video a couple days ago for Saw 10, the newest entry in the Saw franchise. But is it actually good? Well, you guys are going to have to, check out my review. 17 minutes and 54 seconds of it and find out. And if you don't like Saw or care about that video, you could also check out the Dark Knight Trilogy marathon review, where I saw all three of them back to back in the theaters this couple weeks ago or so, and did that review. I also reviewed 2004's Punisher, one of my favorite movies of all time, and the newest Mission Impossible movie, as well as Mission Impossible's franchise overall, and Halloween Kills, which I thought was terrible, and I didn't even see the sequel yet, if I ever will. I'm guessing I will at some point, because I do like Halloween. But then again, I never even saw the second Rob Zombie Halloween, so we'll have to see. Only on Laughingstock Cinema. Could Gogeta destroy Black Frieza? If you mean a Gogeta now, I would assume so, unless somehow Black Frieza's multiplier and his overall power level training somehow put him higher than the fusion multiplier. I mean, when a character just shows up and stomps people easily, it's kind of hard to know how much stronger they are. Are they, 2 times stronger? Are they 2 million times stronger and just decide not to kill everyone? I guess we'll find out in the next chapter, if we ever do. Oh, I see. Yeah, I don't really agree with that. For me, the Green Goblin, I love Willem Dafoe's performance and everything, but I always preferred Doc Ock as the villain in the Spider-Man movies. And, I do not like Venom at all in Spider-Man 3. I think that the casting of Topher Grace is not a good choice, even though I guess I could see what Sam Raimi was going for. But it's, Sam Raimi doesn't like Venom, and you can kind of tell that the studio forced him to put Venom in the movie because it is so forced and so tacked on, and just everything about Venom in that movie just doesn't really work for me at all. The way that Peter acts, scenes like him hitting Mary Jane that, I hate that. I mean, a lot of the stuff with Mary Jane and Peter is honestly the weakness of the entire trilogy, though, to be honest. I mean, to be fair, I was always more of a Black Cat guy myself. I gotta admit, it's kind of hard not to be when you when you see her. But nonetheless, the fact of the matter is that I just not really a fan of a lot of the romance of Mary Jane and Peter, because the fact that, well, I mean, in the comics and cartoons, they get together, they're together, even though he's Spider-Man, all that stuff. In the movies, it's well, let's stretch this out multiple episodes, and then, even the third one still have issues with them. It's Peter meeting other girls along the way and kind of having, temptations with them and stuff, and maybe him and Mary Jane going on breaks and stuff during that. That's more likable and understandable and stuff. He breaks up with Mary Jane, temporarily, And then he meets like this super hot chick in like tight spandex who's like constantly trying to smash him. And it's like, well, okay, I get it. You know, it makes perfect sense. And she's also a superhero. And it's like, okay, you know, that works way better than I can't be with you, Mary Jane, because, you know, I'm Spider-Man, but I don't want you to know that. So I'm just not gonna tell you. And also I'm gonna like, you know, keep you at a distance and then keep trying to get you back, even though you're already like with another guy now. And then she basically uses the other guy she's with multiple times to try and get to Peter. And, you know, it's like some people say now, Mary Jane is for the streets, which in the Spider-Man movies, well, she definitely has a lot of issues going on, but you can understand more based upon like her backstory, why she acts the way she does, even though it's not necessarily as in-depth as like other versions of the character. But that's something else I would get into. Yeah, I know Black Cat only loves Spider-Man. I think that there actually are versions of Black Cat later on, though, or at least later after that point in the story where she accepts that Spider-Man is Peter and still wants to be with them. Because the thing is, like, yeah, at first, Black Cat is more in love with Spider-Man, you know, kind of like she's in love with the persona and the idea of Spider-Man, not who he actually is underneath as like a regular person. So when he finally reveals to her that he's Peter, then of course that ends up causing issues because the spark is gone there for her. But then I think eventually, you know, when he like breaks it off with her and stuff, we get more of a situation where she starts to want him again and she starts to just like accept it. So yeah, like overall, I think that that's still a good idea they could have gone with in the movies. And it's something they never explored for some reason. Like in the Amazing Spider-Man, they were going to have Felicity Jones, I think, who played Jyn Erso in the not in Clone Wars, and Rogue One, play Black Cat. But in Spider-Man, you know, they never ended up having that. Whether she would have been a good Black Cat, I don't really know. I mean, for me, like the best Black Cat actress that I could think of would be like Alexandra Daddario right now. You know, like probably. So, you know, I don't know if they'd really do that. But then, you know, again, we got the Tom Holland Spider-Man right now, and, you know, he's like a young adult, so I don't know. I'm more interested in seeing another Andrew Garfield Spider-Man or a Tobey Maguire Spider-Man than I am seeing Tom Holland. Like, they were the best parts of his own movie. Like, they made him better as Spider-Man by the end, but even then they still have the BS relationship drama where it's like, yeah, I mean, you guys know what it is. And if you don't, check out the movie. It's a great movie. Halle Berry. Yeah, I wasn't really a fan of Halle Berry as Catwoman, to be perfectly honest. I guess she fit in with the year one Catwoman in a sense, but not, you know, that movie was terrible. I mean, Michelle Pfeiffer was fine as Catwoman. I feel like she was a little too over the top, you know, but you know, Black Cat, Catwoman, they're very similar in a lot of ways. And both the main characters, you know, they get to sample that pussy, cat. Okay. Black Cat was supposed to be in Spider-Man 4 in 2011. Yeah, she was also going to be in Amazing Spider-Man 3. Okay. So, let's see. I will start getting everything ready to do one of the recordings. And then I'll get more, I'll get into some of your questions in a little bit again, guys. So let's pull some of this up. Jamie, pull that shit up. Got like a million folders on my computer. I'm intentionally not showing my screen, so you don't have to be confused. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it, guys. You know, if you don't have your drinks and everything ready, you know, your snacks, your stuff like that. I'm intermittent fasting, so I'm done eating and drinking for the night. That's for sure. But with that being said, I will, in fact, be encouraging all of you to enjoy as much as you please. Not the correct volume. Why do you think Beerus wasn't woken up when Supreme Kai was fighting Kid Buu, since he was close to possibly dying? I don't know. I guess that maybe Whis was having fun with it. He was like, oh boy, Beerus could die any second. Let's see what happens. You know, he was having too much fun at the time, I guess we could say. The fact that they split the volumes has always kind of bugged me a little bit, I guess you could say. You know, the not even just like the fact I don't like that Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z were separated into two different sections. You know, like that was never necessary for them to do. I understood. I know why they did it. Of course, they wanted to do it just because the fact that it's like, oh, the Americans. Well, you know, Dragon Ball Z is more popular with them and English-speaking people because they got it before Dragon Ball, and thus in turn, you know, etc., etc., blah blah blah. We get the idea. So with that, I'd have to say that, you know, I get that from like a marketing perspective. But in terms of the overall narrative, and, you know, making it more difficult for me, depending upon which version of it is, to find things because they separate them, that tends to be, well, annoying. But I'm almost ready, guys. I'll do my first video of the night. Trying to find the exact page where Goku first utilizes the Kaioken. Here we go. Excellent. I'm almost there. Stay on target. It's going to actually take more manga panels than I initially anticipated. There we go. Getting better. Getting closer. I'm going to try and keep this video more concise when I'm actually recording it, by the way. I mean, for me, that's like impossible, right? But I'm going to do my best. I'm going to do my best. I'm sure it'll still be like 20 minutes long, even though I'm trying to make it like 10 to 15. But hey, you know, that's the fun of it. That's the fun of this situation. Okay, we got Goku using his Kaioken times 20. Hey Mike, is Magic supposed to be after Super, you ask? So, I don't know yet. It hasn't been announced. The time placement as far, you know, I mean, none of this stuff has been officially announced yet. So, you know, the fact of the matter is with anything Dragon Ball Magic, you gotta just kind of keep... you kind of just need to keep a grain of salt mentality about it, because the fact that, like, I mean, for all we know, it's not even going to be announced at all. It's going to be like, this is for, you know, a 15-second web series, you know, or it's just like little shorts on YouTube. And it's, you know, I don't think that's going to happen. I think that enough people have announced to this point that, you know, have inside sources and credibility and all that stuff like that, that it will in fact occur. But the fact of the matter is that with any of this stuff, you just gotta keep that in mind, because it's like, until something is officially announced, it's like Schrodinger's cat. You know, it's something where it in turn isn't guaranteed to happen. For all we know, Toei could be like, oh, well, there's all these people on the internet reporting on it, so we're just not going to have it happen anymore. We're going to announce it another time. Or, let's spite those Americans that we do so many things to spite them. Like, for example, how like they purposely sent the English dubbers at Funimation because part of that was also because they preferred the Ocean dub in the Ocean studio, and so when Funimation took over, they were angry, and so as a result of that, instead of just like sending them the audio and like the intros and outros and a million other things that they had in the Japanese and that they sent to the Spanish dubs and stuff like that, sending them scripts, they were like, you know what, let's just send them like videos with no translations and no sound. Which is really annoying. So yeah, so we'll see, but that's what I'm saying. I will believe it when I see it. And I think everyone else would be best to do that as well, because why get your hopes up and believe something's going to happen when we've heard so many times that something's going to happen and it hasn't, when you could just be like, well, we'll see what happens, and then if nothing happens, well, how disappointed are you really going to be? No expectations. It's like Dry Creek Wrangler says. Shout out to his channel because it's awesome. Where he's like, great expectations. And that going through life with these big expectations is inevitably going to lead to you being, well, likely disappointed and unhappy because you're expecting great things when in fact you should be tapering those for reality. But then again, if you are a fan, if you pay into a product, you are entitled for a good product, and you are in turn somebody, you're waving your money around, hey Toei, hey Shueisha, we'll give you this money if you give us a product, and they refuse to give you said product. Well, that's certainly capable of criticism as well. Who do I prefer, Shrek or Poe? Poe, I'm guessing you mean from Kung Fu Panda. I like Kung Fu Panda. I like the first couple Shrek movies. After that, actually, do I like the second one? Yeah, I guess I like the second one. After that goes downhill, but I have liked all of the Kung Fu Panda movies. So with that being said, I don't know, I guess maybe as a character I like Poe more. I think he's more humorous, more entertaining in a sense. So yeah. I mean, Shrek's fine, but would I ever want to hang out with Shrek? He'd probably chase me out of his swamp. Get out of my swamp! No thanks. Also, I'd have to listen to like Smash Mouth all the time. And I got tired of somebody once told me the world was going to throw me like 20 years ago. So somebody Mr. Satan or Captain Blue. I think you mean General Blue, but General Blue probably. General Blue has a superpower where he freezes you and then can beat the crap out of you. So I don't think Mr. Satan, aside from like his gag feats of taking damage, I don't think he's as powerful as a lot of people make him out to be, especially when he stops training by the time of the Boo Saga and just like gets by in his laurels. Like, he's really powerful compared to like, characters who can't utilize chi, but like Goku in the very first arc is doing things that Mr. Satan does when he's like, trying. Like, I'm going to chop these several tiles, and, he chops them all except for one. Meanwhile, Goku does that with a finger in the very first arc of Dragon Ball when Oolong gives them to him. And both of them are kind of like joke gag characters too, so, if you want to say Mr. Satan has Toon Force, well, so did Kid Goku. So theoretically, Kid Goku from the first arc could beat Mr. Satan. Maybe you want to say the 21st tournament, but yeah. Like, would Mr. Satan really be able to beat King Choppa? I doubt it. I mean, you can argue maybe, but I mean, Goku still effortlessly beat the dude in the 21st or 22nd tournament. So, I mean, Goku and Krillin were like tapping giants and they flew out of the ring because they didn't even know how strong they were. And so Krillin basically was like Goku, we gotta hold back in this tournament, otherwise we're gonna like kill people. Or maybe it was Goku saying that, and then Krillin went to fight when the Orin monks, he's like, I can't beat this guy, he bullied me, he was so much stronger. And then like Krillin hits him, and we see how much damage it does. I don't see Mr. Satan tapping someone and them flying out of a ring like when they're like 5 times the size. It doesn't make any sense as far as what we've seen in universe. Like he could pull buses, he could chop tiles, stuff like that. But aside from getting hit by characters, you know, which maybe you want to count in universe's durability, I don't think it's I don't think he's as strong as even like really early Dragon Ball characters. Like you could have Yamcha might be able to beat him in the first arc. Chi-Chi, you know, could possibly beat him in the first arc, you know, especially if she's like able to use her weapons. Like she killed a T-Rex like immediately. So yeah. Are you excited for the upcoming David Fincher movie, The Killer, which boasts the return of Michael Fassbender? I haven't heard of it, but it sounds pretty cool to me. Is it a remake of the Takeshi Miike from The Killer, which was based on a graphic novel, I think, or a manga? Let me know. Mike, did you ever play Spider-Man Ultimate, Friend or Foe, Web of Shadows, Shattered Dimensions, and the Toby games? I don't know, to be honest. Like, those were all PlayStation games, if I remember correctly, and I never owned a PlayStation after the original one, so I might have missed all of them. I might have played, like, 1 or 2 at a friend's house, because my friend had, like, the PlayStations and the Xbox consoles and stuff, you know? But I mostly just had, like, Nintendo. I had a Dreamcast. I had my computer. You know, when I was given like as a kid, we couldn't afford all the consoles. You know, like we couldn't get all of them. Like we didn't really have a lot to go by. You know, so growing up, it's like when a new console generation would come out, it's like, which one do you want? Like I'm only gonna get one, and that's what I get for the whole generation. So it's like I'm picking Nintendo, right? Like, you know, Nintendo eventually fell off in terms of like the hardcore gaming market and stuff like that. But overall, I was going to pick Nintendo if I'm going to pick any, because it's like I've also never been like a giant first person shooter fan either. And like when that's like one of the biggest genres that they're selling consoles on, it's like, get the Xbox and play all these first person shooters. It's like, I mean, I'd rather play like like an RPG or strategy or puzzle or platformer, or like different types of games like that compared to like an FPS. Not that I don't like any FPSs. Like I enjoyed Halo and Gears of War and Fallout, if you want to count it as an FPS. I mean, for me, that's more like a third person shooter with an FPS capability. But overall, I would say that I'm not like a huge FPS fan, and that's definitely not my favorite genre. I feel like FPSs were honestly like, you know, one of the ways of bringing in people who didn't play games normally, right? Like the people who used to like make fun of the kids in school who would like play video games were the ones drawn in by like the sports games and the first person shooters. And so, you know, like we had a giant influx with the Xbox of like non-gamers into gaming, which drastically changed the landscape to where it suddenly became more about like the most casual gaming stuff and like, you know, let's play FPSs, let's play, you know, Madden, and let's do this and that. And none of these people who are like playing and were like, we're hardcore gamers, ever played like a Mario game or Donkey Kong or Sonic or like any of like the real classic hardcore games. And then like the whole genre started to basically, the whole medium started to just appeal to those gamers, and then, you know, figured out that they could monetize all of them. And then in turn, what they do? Well, they proceed to turn every single game into a microtransaction factory where you just basically work a job in every single game to like get in-game currency, or you spend money in order to fast track it, and then you do this or that, which is limited progression based upon your FPS or your you know, your money per investment, basically, or like, you can play this many hours per game, you can get this many quests, or you can give us your money and then in turn you can get more. And that's a big reason why I don't really enjoy games as much anymore. Plus the fact of the matter is, like, games are way too big and too long now. Pause. And the fact of the matter is that, like, do I want to devote 100 hours to play a game? And I can't just like sit down and have fun and enjoy the game for like 20 minutes or an hour or something, because I have to get so invested and it takes me like that long just to get from one place to another. Or do I want to play a game from like decades ago that had way better pacing and you can accomplish way more and generally is more fun and doesn't have like all these other current day problems with the games? I mean, that's kind of what it comes down to for me. So that's why I usually am playing retro games. Like, I'll replay certain games every year, like the Zelda games or, certain games from my childhood, but, even young adulthood. But after a while, I just wasn't that interested in them anymore. Sega does with Nintendo. Yes, it is live, Chad. Thanks for showing up. Your name is very popular in this day and age, although it has different inclinations than it used to have about 20 years ago. But okay. And yes, it's an original story. I will be checking it out. I do like David Fincher. So I'm going to record a video and you guys can watch along. Enjoy the process. I like to think I'm like, in a sense, showing you guys a behind the scenes of what it is that we do here on Laughingstock Media and Cinema. How's it going? Gotta keep hydrated. Or, as Joey Diaz says, gotta dehydrate. Drink at least a gallon of water a day. 8 cups? Psh, get that shit out of here. Drink at least a gallon. Sometimes several times more. If you're me, many times. A lot more than a gallon. Water weight? What's that? But thank you, Xavier, and everyone else for your super chats. And I am looking forward to getting into this video with you guys here today watching me. Lend me your Genki, and I will make you the best video I possibly can. Off the top of my head. And before I begin, Chad, I think maybe you're a new viewer. I don't think I've seen you before on the channel. You said, just want to say this channel is a lot better than Geekdom's videos. Oh, wow. He just describes everyone acts like he's the #1 DBZ fan instead of just having a community. Well, I appreciate your kind comments about that, but Danny is a friend of mine. So, there are a lot of people who watch my videos, and I see sometimes they comment that they're not necessarily a fan of his or other channels. For me, like, if I didn't like him and like working with him and everything, I wouldn't, and I do quite often. So either way, in terms of like content and stuff like that, you're entitled to like whatever you want, any channel you want. There are some channels I'm not a fan of their content either. I don't try and make it public, even though sometimes I might just like let things slip here and there. But nonetheless, I appreciate everyone who watches my videos, whether you like other channels or not. So, yeah, I do want to just kind of say that, because I do oftentimes get these comments on my videos where people talk about, that they're not a fan of like this or that from another creator I work with. But at the end of the day, for me, when I work with someone, I tend to have some degree, at least, of respect for them. Oftentimes I'm friends with them in real life. And not just that, but, I chose to work with that individual. So I saw something within them, their content, the way that they're able to speak and conduct themselves, their knowledge, stuff like that, that lent to me wanting to work with them. Or I just enjoyed watching their videos. So I'll just say that, and then we're going to get into this video. Let me do a test real quick. Hey guys, it's Mike here, and in this video, I'm going to be testing out my video and audio equipment simultaneously. Huh, what a shock. I'm doing both at once. Mr. Anderson, you try to deny me what is that I am seeking. Purpose. Purpose that defines us. Purpose that binds us. And now I will take from you what you tried to take from me. Purpose. Okay. Does anyone know what that's from? Let me know down below in the comments. I mean, I hope you know what that's from, because it is pretty cool. Sometimes I kind of catch myself talking like him in videos. Not necessarily intentional, but. Guys, it's Mike here at once. And now I actually watched V for Vendetta again for the first time in years. Still don't really like it as much as the comic, but nonetheless, I do enjoy his performance in that movie for sure. Also, I wish that Natalie Portman actually went all out as Evie. You know, in the comic, she does not have anything on when she's in that rain scene. Natalie Portman, she decided to wear like a burlap sack. Disappointing for sure, especially for 2000s. People who were of age in the 2000s. But nonetheless, let's get into this. Yeah, you guys saw it. Awesome. I'll be honest, I really like the Matrix sequels, except for 4. But I've only seen 4 one time, which is probably more than enough for me. But because I hate myself, I'll go back and watch it again at some point and see. But I rewatched all of them the day before I saw Resurrections, and wow, was that an abomination. I don't remember if I did a video about that, but I hated it nonetheless. But either way, let's get into this. Hey guys, it's Mike here, and in this video, I'm going to be discussing a subject that has to do with Goku and even the other characters around him, all centering around one technique. A technique that increased Goku's power, speed, and everything else simultaneously with a burst of incredible power that he learned from King Kai, the one who the technique bears his name. That is the Kaioken. And the question of why exactly does Goku no longer use the Kaioken? Why did he give up on the Kaioken in the original Dragon Ball narrative? And not just that, but additionally, why didn't the other characters learn Kaioken? Is it something that Goku and the others saw as no longer being necessary in the original Dragon Ball Z story, or perhaps is there another reason behind it? Well, in this video, I'm going to get into that. But before I begin, if you're new to this channel, consider subscribing and enabling all notifications. That way you can stay up to date with all my future videos. Also, make sure to leave a like, share your own thoughts down below, share this video out. All of that combined with you guys watching the entire video will allow us to go even further beyond. And with that being said, let's get into the video. And guys, can we get a like here on the live chat, the live stream? I want to make sure that we get as far beyond as we can with this live stream too, so as many people can watch as possible. But with that being said, guys, we're going to get deep into this video and hard. Yeah, I could definitely tell that a lot of people did not work from the first 3 movies to the last one, because it definitely shows. That movie was like Independence Day resurgence levels of bad, if not worse. At least at Keanu, though. Okay, so let's also make sure it's actually showing my, all right, perfect. All right, so let's get into the manga and the backstory of the Kaioken a little bit so you get a better understanding of exactly why Goku stopped using this ability, at least up until Dragon Ball Super. I'm not counting that part of the story during this particular video, although I guess maybe I could reference it a little bit at the end. So when Goku went to train with King Kai after his death at the hands of Piccolo, when he sacrificed himself to take out Raditz at the start of the Saiyan saga, he started to train under the the 10 times gravity, and not just that, but King Kai saw just how much potential Goku had, and in turn decided to teach him the Kaioken, named after Kaio-sama himself, which means the fist of Kaio, or the North King Kai in the, of course, English dub and version of the manga. Nonetheless, what ended up happening was that Goku would eventually learn this technique. And the first time Goku used Goku's technique, well, actually, that wasn't Goku's technique. He doesn't really have many of those these days now, does he? Was when he was fighting against Nappa. Now, after the fight had actually come to its conclusion, Nappa went to go and attack Cue-Ball Krillin and Baby Gohan at this point, Crybaby Gohan at least. And because Goku wasn't able to get there in time, he used the Kaioken to double his power, hitting Nappa right in the spine, breaking his back with a big old crack, and then in turn casting him down before the Saiyan Prince, and leading to Vegeta deciding, well, he's going to use one of his many techniques and then in turn obliterate his good friend. AKA disposable trash, because it is Vegeta at this point in the story before he learns, how to not be a psychopath and have empathy. So after Goku used the Kaioken against Nappa, Krillin asks him a question, which is, was this something you learned from the Kaio guy? And then Goku says, yeah, it's called the Kaioken. By controlling all of the ki in your body, you can amplify it momentarily. If you do it right, your power, speed, and destructive and defensive force multiply several times over. Of course, I discussed this even more in depth in the video, What is the Multiplier for Base Kaioken, that you guys can check out in the top right corner. At this point, Krillin says, so you're saying that as strong as you already are, you can multiply it at will. You're such a tease, Goku. This will be no time to be playing around. If you had that up your sleeve, you should have just used it from the start. Of course, Goku then responds and explains to Krillin, sorry, it doesn't work that way. If I don't control it just right when I'm throttling my energy, I could really mess myself up. Basically, and then we actually see a flashback to Goku talking to King Kai about the technique, where King Kai says, just to re-emphasize, at this point, you can't rely on the Kaioken too heavily. If you slip up and lose control at any point, you can easily destroy your body. Don't go beyond a double Kaioken. Understood? Of course, that is in relation to the normal Kaioken, which I discussed in that video I just referenced before in the top right corner. Performing a Kaioken beyond that will put too great of a strain on your body. It won't be able to keep up with the technique, and it will backfire on you. Okay, I understand. And so basically, we see that Goku does in fact disobey the direct order of the Kaio himself by using his Ken. Wrong one. With even higher multipliers during his fight against Vegeta later on. At first, Goku is able to get the better of Vegeta with his Kaioken. Now, when the fight begins, Vegeta is still stronger than Goku with the double Kaioken. Vegeta has a power level of 18,000. Goku has a power level of 8,000 multiplied by 2, 16. Eventually, though, he uses the triple Kaioken, is able to hurt Vegeta, causing him to bleed, which leads to him going up into the sky in order to blow up the planet. I actually discussed in depth how this would have worked, as well as planet busting in general, in a video you guys can see in the top right corner. This is when Goku once again uses the triple Kaioken, the Kaioken times 3, fires his Kamehameha at Vegeta's Gallic Gun, and the two of them match up with their attacks, with them being equal in power and overall output. At this point, Goku, in order to win the fight, actually says Kaioken times 4, which overpowers Vegeta's blast and in turn leads him to winning the beam struggle. However, just like King Kai said before, this ended up being way too much for Goku's body, and essentially during that point in time hurt him so much that when Yajirobe just tapped him on the back, he screamed in agony. Now, in terms of the overall reason why the Kaioken hurts Goku and anyone who uses it, I'm discussing it a little bit in depth here today, but I discussed it far more in depth in another video you can see in the top right corner. Already got 3 here today, guys. Wow. Let's see. Now in the next arc, during Goku's training on... Oh, actually, I'll show this one first. I think that's more relevant. Yeah, I was hoping to maybe show Goku's training. I'll just crop it in. It's fine. Or show it, whatever. I'll edit that in. So during Goku's training... Now, in the next arc, after the Saiyan Saga and Goku has recovered, he makes his way to Planet Namek. During a course of 7 days, he trains under up to 100 times gravity, and during that is able to master the Kaioken to even higher degrees when he amps up and increases his overall power. Now, during this, we see that Goku is actually able to increase his power against Captain Ginyu from a base of 90,000 to a power of 180,000, which would have easily allowed him to defeat Captain Ginyu and really everyone up until Frieza at this point, other than, of course, Vegeta when he gets his Zenkai here, and then Piccolo when he merges with Nail, and then Gohan at different points in time as well. Now, with all that being said, Goku eventually goes on to ramp up the Kaioken to a 10 times versus Frieza during their fight. But because Frieza had a power level of 60 million at his 50% power, Goku was only able to get up to 50% of Frieza's 50% or 25% of his overall power with the 10 times Kaioken, and thus in turn didn't really stand much of a chance. Eventually, Goku ramps up the Kaioken to the highest that we had ever seen at that point in the time, which is when he uses the Kaioken times 20, knocks back Frieza with a power that actually matches his at this point, and then proceeds to use the Kamehameha, which in turn actually would likely exceed the power of the overall 60 million that Goku's putting out. Now, you can make an argument about whether or not that's actually the case, because the thing is, when Goku uses the Kamehameha, traditionally when he's not using the Kaioken, it will increase the overall power of the ki output that he's outputting, because the fact that, as we saw during his fight against Raditz earlier on in the Saiyan Saga, when he uses the Kamehameha, which is presumably the Super Kamehameha at this point, just like when Piccolo uses the Makanko Sapo or Special Beam Cannon or the awesome sounding Light of Death, what ends up happening is that they output even higher than their normal level of power. However, considering the fact that Goku is already augmenting his power by 20 times at this point, you can make an argument that when he uses the Kamehameha with the Kaioken, that it actually is only outputting whatever the maximum of the Kaioken is at the time, so in turn Goku is firing a 60 million Kamehameha right here, and that is why Frieza is able to essentially stop it and negate it with pure force in the manga version. The anime version, he stops it with an additional blast, and in turn is able to not take any real damage. You can maybe argue that Frieza actually, beefed up his power a little bit to go beyond the level that Goku would have been outputting at that point in time. But considering just how big of a boost we saw the power level of Goku with the Kaioken, but considering how big of a boost that we saw Goku's Kamehameha gave him against the fight with Raditz, whereas about a 3 times boost overall, it does kind of make the argument that you know, obviously Frieza wouldn't have been 180 million, so it kind of lends credence to that. All of these, again, are suggesting reasons why Goku would not want to use the Kaioken, because once again here, what do we see? Goku is huffing and puffing. He's significantly hurt by using the Kaioken times 20, and he even makes note at some point that he is too weakened from having used it, where you could see right here, he says that right here. Sure enough, the 20 times Kaioken was too much for me. So we see a recurring theme throughout the story of when Goku uses the Kaioken, it could do significant damage to him, and when he pushes it too hard and too far, it also in turn makes it to where he is not able to keep fighting afterward if it failed. It's almost like a last-ditch effort in a sense to amp up your power while also taking damage, and you just kind of hope and pray to King Kai that in turn you'll actually be able to beat the enemy, which I don't think Goku ever did except for, you know, Nappa. Let's see if I can find the Super Saiyan panel. Now, with this being said, eventually Goku failed with all of his different techniques against Frieza, and upon seeing Krillin destroyed in front of his eyes, he became a Super Saiyan. And now a Super Saiyan has a power level, or at least a multiplier of your power level, which is 50 times greater than the base form, at least during the initial time. In the future, I'm actually going to do a video about whether or not this keeps the same multiplier every time a Saiyan uses it after the initial transformation, and how the transformation may have changed in terms of increasing or decreasing multiplier over the course of the franchise, but that's separate for another time. Nonetheless, at this point, Goku's power he was able to output as a Super Saiyan was 2.5 times greater than what he was able to output with his maximum Kaioken at the time, and thus in turn, Goku was able to utilize a transformation that did not hurt his body when he used it, that was able to just bring out his ki normally without having to use some sort of separate technique that was separate from his own biology, and in turn was never going to have the same struggles, the same problems with using it, and wouldn't have to master it in the same way that he would Kaioken, where it didn't hurt him, but rather, let me actually pull this up too. While I'm looking for that real quick, taking an intermission from recording this video, which is already 14 minutes long. I told you guys this is going to be a lot longer than I expected. Wow. Let me take a look at some of your comments. You guys are commenting in the chat. Thank you so much again. And Super Saiyan mode is Vegeta's technique, because he knew about it before him. If you guys haven't checked out Lonely's Isle, by the way, definitely do so. He makes some great content, and you know, I definitely owe him for at least the inspiration for the Vegeta's technique. I mean, you know, he's the one who did those videos, if I remember correctly. So then there's also, what is it? Solid SS Snake or something like that. Solid or SSJ Solid Snake, whatever his name is. He's great too with his like panel based videos, basically his screen cap where he has like the subtitles and he does all the voices. I really like those too. He doesn't just do Dragon Ball either. He does like comics and movies sometimes. His stuff's really, really fun. Let me know if you guys watch any of his stuff down below or in the live chat, because this part's could be cut out of the video. So I'm going to pull up the manga where Goku and Gohan get out of the Rosat, the Room of Spirit and Hyperbolic Time Chamber. What do I call it, actually, another video. The Room of Spirit and Time Chamber. The Hyperbolic Room of Spirit and Time Chamber. There we go. It's way more complicated, and yet I like it that much more. All right, perfect. I found it. However, he does go on to master Super Saiyan with Gohan in another way later on in the story. Now, a lot of people speculate on whether or not this is actually an increased multiplier from the initial Super Saiyan. That's another thing I'll be doing a video on separately in the future. However, nonetheless, the fact of the matter is that Gohan and Goku and all the other Z fighters don't even attempt to utilize the Kaioken at this point. Goku never in the actual manga uses the Kaioken on top of his Super Saiyan forms at any point. Now, I'll cut this part out if I don't remember correctly, but even if I recall correctly, Goku never attempts in the Dragon Ball Super manga to utilize Kaioken on top of his Super Saiyan Blue like he does in the Dragon Ball Super anime, and he also never does in the movies either, which once again goes to show you that there's something holding Goku back from utilizing this. Now, actually, let me show that on screen because I'm already on the topic of it. So let me show the Super Kaioken. Because I guess I am talking about different continuities in this video after all. Why does the Kaioken hurt Goku? Here we go. Perfect. That's why I save all my stuff, guys. Now, of course, in the Otherworld tournament, in the filler, which comes after the Cell Saga where Goku had mastered Super Saiyan, he does actually utilize the Super Kaioken against Pikkon during the course of their fight, where he's actually able to knock Pikkon back and escape from one of Pikkon's and send him flying into a moon. However, the fact of the matter is, even with using this technique here, Goku still wasn't able to get the better of Pikkon overall, because even though they did match up even though they did draw come the end of their fight, because they had tapped on the different walls, Goku was able to in turn utilize the Warp Kamehameha to knock Pikkon out of the ring, but even then, the guy still was able to get back up and want to keep fighting. Whereas with Cell, well, that took off the top half of his head. But then again, Pikkon did one-shot Cell earlier, but whether or not it's because the same technique he used immediately afterward to hit Goku is another story that I'll talk about in its own video in the future. Unfortunately, it's not in the top right corner. But what you could say here is that there's an argument that maybe Goku, the reason why he was able to use it is because of the fact that he was dead and thus didn't have as many limitations on his spiritual body, kind of like we saw during the 7-year time skip leading up to the World's Martial Arts Tournament, where he was training in the afterlife constantly and able to achieve Super Saiyan 2 and 3 on top of that. So that kind of lends credibility to that. Also, the fact it was made by Toei, not a part of Toriyama's original manga, and doesn't fit with the same continuity. Much like during the Tournament of Power, when we hear about how Goku did not utilize the Kaioken, actually, is it the Tournament of Power or the Universe 6? Much like in the Universe 6 tournament, much like in the Tournament of Power, where we saw that Goku was explained to have not used the Kaioken on top of his regular Super Saiyan before because there was such a kind of dissonance, let's say, in the energy that would cause him to be able to not sustain it and probably would have died in the process, kind of like going back to what they had mentioned earlier on in the story. It might have been in the Tournament of Power that they actually talked about the Spirit Bomb. I don't remember if they mentioned both. They might have mentioned the Universe 6 with the Kaioken and then the Tournament of Power with the Genki Dama. Nonetheless, I'll just edit in after I recheck everything. That's why I recorded both. Sometimes you gotta make sure. However, in the story, Goku never again uses the Kaioken in the original manga continuity, except for... However, Goku never once again uses it in the manga after he achieves Super Saiyan, which again raises the question of why not, even when he's fighting his base against arguably characters like, for example, Dr. Gero and Android 19, who wouldn't necessarily be able to stand up against Goku's Super Saiyan if he decided to try and use the Kaioken at first, because of the fact that Goku is much stronger, healthy than he would have been as a, because the fact that Goku, even healthy, would have been way stronger than what he was putting out when he fought against 19. And for all we know, maybe using the Kaioken wouldn't have aggravated Goku's heart virus enough. And for all we know, Goku using the Kaioken might not have even aggravated his heart virus anywhere near as much as, let's say, when he went Super Saiyan. But with that being said... However, there is one point during the franchise which actually could answer this question even more definitively, and that comes at the time when Piccolo fought against Dr. Gero Android 20. Now, for anyone who forgets or doesn't remember or just needs a refresher, the fact of the matter is that Piccolo trained with Goku as a Super Saiyan as shown in the manga for 3 years leading up to the fight against the androids. We even see a little bit of him fighting against base Goku, probably at the start of their training in the anime version leading up to the fight. In the anime version leading up to the androids coming. Now, during this fight, we see that Piccolo is actually able to significantly get the better of Dr. Gero, even after he'd absorbed the power of Piccolo as well as a blast from Super Saiyan Vegeta. Now, this shocks everyone, especially Dr. Gero, who doesn't understand how it's possible that taking this man's energy, or taking this Namekian's energy really, led to him not having a significant advantage. And Krillin right here even makes note that Piccolo is so strong. What kind of training did he go through? He's not even a Super Saiyan, and yet he is probably stronger than Goku on Namek. A lot of people think that he's stronger than Future Trunks when he sliced and diced Mecha Frieza, and, everything along those lines. And so the question is, what's causing Piccolo to be so strong other than just pure stat boost? Well, he explains the next page. Well, he explains a couple pages later, after he chops off Dr. Gero's arm. He says right here, something to keep in mind. When we fight, we can amplify what you call our energy into huge bursts, which is why the energy you stole from me earlier was nothing to fret over. Now keep note of what Piccolo is saying right here. We can amplify what you would call our energy in huge bursts. What does this sound exactly like? Let's see. Now, it sounds exactly like what Goku was explaining when he was talking about the Kaioken, when he was telling Krillin and Gohan. By controlling all of the ki in your body, you can amplify it momentarily in a huge burst, right? Exactly like Goku saying here that your power, speed, your destructive and defensive forces multiply several times over. Just like what's happening here with Piccolo, where he's able to, despite the fact that he had his energy drained shortly before this, and Dr. Gero should be way stronger than he was before, Piccolo is still able to amplify his power in huge bursts and then in turn deal damage to Dr. Gero. This is something that stood out to me when I first read the manga many years ago, and something that's led me to think that perhaps what actually happened and the reason why Goku, Piccolo, and none of the other fighters ever used the Kaioken, despite the fact that some of these fighters even trained with King Kai on his planet and should have been more than capable of handling it, especially Piccolo, a character with regeneration who should be able to snap back and bounce back way better than Goku did. Maybe what happened? Well, Goku actually helped Piccolo and Gohan and the other fighters learn how to, during their training, do the exact same thing as Kaioken with none of the downsides. In other words, Piccolo is able to exponentially increase his power at any given time during a fight, to where he's able to easily get the advantage of someone far stronger than Frieza or even Goku on Namek, especially after absorbing the power, a character like an android who doesn't have as much understanding of chi or ki as Piccolo and the other Z fighters who have been training for a very long time. Piccolo not as long in this body, but he was a being who had way greater understanding way back centuries before when he was Demon King Piccolo, and thus in turn, after training with King Kai especially, is able to do something that the androids, that so many other fighters that are introduced in the series cannot, where he's able to not only increase his power with blasts and things like that beyond the traditional output of energy that he can do, however, he's able to also amplify it in huge bursts. So even if Piccolo's power level when he's just standing around is maybe weaker than what you would think that Dr. Gero has, or even, you know, a Super Saiyan at the time, when he actually goes to hit you, his power increases several times with the output that he's dealing at the time, just like it would with the Kaioken. And in turn, his body isn't injured. He doesn't have to use a special technique. He actually was able to simply learn how to control and master his energy in a way, and Goku presumably too. I'm assuming that Gohan and the others would be able to do this at this point, at least the ones that train with Gohan. And then after this point in the story, when anyone trains with Piccolo, for instance, and then in turn, making the Kaioken essentially no longer necessary. Of course, we do see it return again in Dragon Ball Super. It seems like they did kind of overlook this idea and concept, but nonetheless, it does seem like overall, this might have actually been what Toriyama was going for. And whereas a lot of people seem to think that there was no explanation why it's dropped whatsoever, this right here could be the exact explanation we were looking for. Not 27 minutes. I know I'm going to cut some of that out, but don't worry. So why doesn't Goku and anyone else so why did Goku and the other fighters so why doesn't Goku use the Kaioken anymore? How do I pose this? So why did Goku stop using the Kaioken in the original story? And why didn't several other characters like Piccolo learn it? Well, it's entirely possible that it comes down to factors like needing to spend way more time mastering the higher multiplier, not getting enough reward for it because it deals so much damage to your body and you can't just use it infinitely without spamming it, without dealing some sort of damage to your body and stamina because how unnatural it is. And of course, maybe because of the fact that they learned an ability to make it totally moot at this point, where they could in turn amplify their ki at any given point. And then what happens? Well, they can utilize it very easily. And then in turn, what happens? Well, they can simply do the exact same thing without any of the problems or drawbacks. But what do you guys think? Let me know your own thoughts down below in the comments. Also, if you're new here, consider subscribing and enabling all notifications. That way you can stay up to date with all my future videos. Once again, thank you all for watching this long, and make sure to stick around because there's a lot more to come in the future. Okay. There we go, guys. A whole new video recorded here today on Laughingstock Media. How's it going? All right. So let me do this. So what do you guys think? Do you like it when I record videos live? Let me know in the live chat. I'll be bringing it back up for all you guys in a minute. Curious to see what you think. Make sure it actually is working. Just how big of a boom would die in the process. Kind of character like an android. All right, perfect. Okay, cool. I'm glad you guys are liking it. It's one of the things I always thought would be fun to do, like record my videos and have you guys watch, you know, work on thumbnails and stuff in the future. Maybe I'll even make the thumbnail for this video on this live stream, kind of give you an idea of what I do. We'll see. Consider making at least one more video, but we'll see. I like to say we'll see a lot, don't I? I guess we'll see if I continue to say we'll see. Let me show you guys also while I'm on here doing some behind the scenes sneak peeks. Let me do this real quick. Hold on. I'm going to show you some alternate thumbnails I was considering for my last video about Majin Buu's regeneration that I did with Quaman. Cool. Thank you guys for all that. Give me one moment. I'll share my screen one more time. Okay. Perfect. I'm very organized too. One thing I'll tell you about my about when I make everything. I'm probably the most organized YouTuber I've ever met, to be honest, which is not to brag. It's more just like an observation I made. So I'll show you guys right now. I have folders for like every video I make. So, well, let me not show too much. I don't want to give away any big projects I got in the process. But let me show you something real quick. So, of course, I make all my thumbnails in Photoshop, and I've been using Photoshop for, I don't know, 20-ish years, something like that. And yeah, I just like the Adobe Suite. Use Photoshop, use Audition, use Premiere, all those different softwares. Sometimes After Effects. I mostly just go with those three, but you know, lots of other programs. So here is my thumbnails I made for the last video. Now this was my original intended video thumbnail for the Majin Buu regeneration video. I actually kind of like this thumbnail. I think it looks really weird and stands out even at the thumbnail size when you can see it zoomed out. This like, see, one of the things I'll show you guys, you know, I'll teach you for free, is that whenever I make a thumbnail, I try to check all the sizes. So with regard to that, what I like to do is I like to see what all of you guys would see when you're watching it. So for example, here's like the full size, the normal size. You know, this is, if you looked at your screen really closely, I guess. Here's like the TV size thumbnail, I guess. It's gonna be hard for you guys to see if you're on your phone or a device, but here's like the TV size, more or less. Here's like the phone size, and here's like the recommended. It depends. There's multiple recommended. Here's like one type of recommended. Here's like the little recommended. So I always check all the different sizes back to back before I use the thumbnail, because I want to make sure that everyone can see it and know what it is from really far. I could still tell what this is, but I could see why somebody would struggle with that. Whereas other thumbnails I had in mind were this one. It's a little bit harder to make out though. It's right after Buu comes back from Vegeta's self-destruction. There's this one, which again, I think stands out. You could see the face, but I could see why maybe not. This was one of the ones. I didn't really like this one though. Here's the one I ended up going with, which is right before Gotenks sends the ghost down his mouth. You could see right here, same scene, just a different panel. I'd considered this, but I'll probably save this for another video at some point in the future and Photoshop it a little bit. Here is another one. I thought this was kind of funny, so we'll see if I change the thumbnail at some point in time. Like I said, this was my initial intended one, but I didn't decide to go with it because, you know, I took advice from somebody else. So I was like, you know what, let's take somebody's shot, and we'll see. Well, that doesn't sound right. Let's go give it a shot. And yeah, and this one was another one too. But overall, we went with this one. Whether that was a good choice or not, I guess we'll see at some point in the future. Okay. Oh, well, I thank you so much for liking the regeneration video, and everyone who watched that. You know, I knew it was going to be a good one. I was really happy with it. It was not easy to make, though, I'll tell you that. Like, when I made the video with Quaman, he wanted to add a lot to it in terms of like, you know, like, what about this example, Mike? What about this example, Mike? What about this example, Mike? It's like, okay, we'll add more and more and more to make this even more of a deep dive. It's like when I did that video with Black and Fist a while back, the why didn't the androids obey Dr. Gero? I thought, maybe we'll get a 20-minute video out of this, but we went so deep into the subject that it ended up being over 40, which, hey, I think it's one of my best videos, to be honest. That's the thing. Some of my videos recently, I think, are some of the best ones I've ever made, which is surprising to me because, I thought when I made the shift in style, it wouldn't be as liked. But overall, people are enjoying it, and it gives me way more ability to get into really deep dives without having to spend like weeks and weeks editing the video with all the clips and stuff like that. Some of these videos take a really long time to edit. Even my video I did with Quaman, Ethan, I made a video with him, the regeneration one. Still took me a decent amount of time to edit just because it's kind of like this, The thing is, whenever I make a video with another YouTuber, it's basically like a multi-hour conversation, and then the video just so happens to occur during it. That's part of why I also like these live streams and why I have guests on them in the future. It's just tough because YouTubers all have their own schedule, and that's why it's hard to like do collabs sometimes because everyone wakes up at different times. They go to sleep at different times. They do videos at different times. Some people want to record only in the middle of the night, which I'm not super into anymore, to be honest. Like, I used to pull all-nighters for years doing YouTube, but I don't really want to do that anymore. So it could be a struggle. But fortunately with Kwame, I was able to make the video with him at a reasonable time during the day. But it still ended up being like 48 minutes before editing. So, it wasn't one that I jumped to edit immediately. I had to put out a couple other videos before that. Even the Go Tanks or the Why Go 10 trunks are way stronger than you think video was easier to edit because I didn't have to actually insert as much content into it. I can even show you guys right now what the video looked like before I rendered it out. Let me do that. I'll give you guys inside scoop again of what my videos look like. Start doing Windows share too. I think that's a safer option for everyone. Give me 1 second. I figure all that out. Oh, that was not the right button to hit. There we go. Okay. So this is what the recent video I did with Quaman looks like before I actually, before the rendering. As you can see, there are very few edits. Yeah, you might have been surprised before I zoomed out thinking it was, oh, that's just one edit maybe, but nah. This one, quite a bit of editing to be perfectly honest. Let's see if my camera is in the way. Yeah. This was, I think, 48 minutes raw footage, and I was able to get it down to 33, but as you can see the way I edited the video, I actually had to also edit both of our audios individually because whenever I record a video with someone, I don't just do the OBS volume and sound. I like to make it so that everything is equalized and relative, and you can hear everything he says and I say. And if we ever speak over each other, it ruins the video for me. So as a result, I decided to keep everything relatively the same. And so I record the audio separately, and not just that, but additionally, when I'm making the video, I will also sometimes have to add in other stuff because I didn't have on my screen. I actually am going to do that for the newest video I just recorded earlier. I don't have something on my screen. So for instance, here, I actually totally cropped the video and everything to get the exact thing I'm looking for on the screen. So for Garlic Jr., that was obviously not in the manga, so I had to get a separate picture. Same thing here. Zamasu and the Super Dragon Balls. bunch of other things like that. The thing is, you know, maybe you think I record the audio or the footage separately for myself, but that's actually not true. Because look, if I remove the attributes, this is what it actually looked like. And so I cropped everything out, including the banner. And so when I go back, if it lets me. Oh. Well, yeah. So basically it would be cropped like this. But I just messed it up. So what I'll do is I won't save the video so that I don't have to do that again. But it's like this, for instance, like it would be kind of like this. Very sneaky of me, isn't it? Yeah, you're still alive. What do you mean? Did my stream disappear for a second or something? But yeah, like these videos can take a lot of editing, and hopefully I make it so seamless that you can't tell where all the edits are. Except for during this.
Subscribe, and remember, as I always say, to have a great day, guys.
I don't know if anyone noticed either, but I also used the original Herald audio. I didn't use the normal one or the recent one. That's why it sounds a little different. Because normally it would sound more like this. Let me open up another video. I'll open up my recent Gotenks one, the version of Gotenks we never saw. And normally it sounds like this.
Yeah, and you better subscribe.
But because I used the original one, it sounds like...
And you better subscribe.
Which I know a lot of people prefer that version. And I figured I'm doing a video with Quaman. Why not throw in the old nostalgic outro? Kind of like when I did my Terminator video. I don't even think it's on here anymore. When I did my Terminator video, I in turn was able to use the original Terminator intro that I had on the channel. Not original, but one of the original ones I did. I'll show you right now when I find it. Here we go. So as you can see, I actually shortened it though.
Hey guys, it's Mike. In this video, I'm gonna...
Here's the full one though, because the thing is, like, I actually shortened it just to like fit into the video. Let's see which video this is.
Ball franchise, we have been in go up to and stat Speed Force so that and more who normally has the
check that video out. Should Dragon Ball Super introduce more unique transformations? I guess I called that again too, didn't I? Kind of like when I accidentally called Black Frieza, where it's like, oh, I'm sure that Frieza will find a time chamber in the middle of nowhere and then get another transformation. It's like, I wonder how I knew that. Or better yet, I wonder how Toei ripped me off. I mean, Shueisha. I mean, Toyotaro. I mean, would you be that surprised? Toyotaro has ripped off plenty of things during his time in leading this franchise. This is actually one of the first videos where I started to implement this cropping feature with my new style.
first place. And there's another scene that perfectly illustrates the similarities and parallels between Kyle Reese and future Trunks, known as Mind Power Key, in which Trunks is having this flashback in the past to where he...
Yeah, so that scene is awesome, by the way. You missed the Terminator intro? Yeah, I do really enjoy it. But I try not to have an intro much anymore, aside from like me literally introducing myself, I guess, because it doesn't really... I don't know. It's just like, it doesn't really work in terms of like the retention. Like the problem is that most people, well, you know, they tune in to watch a video and they don't care about your intro and they don't care about like, you know, you in general. So they're just like, oh, why can't you just say the thing faster? Talk faster. Just say exactly what it is. Tell me it within 5 seconds or else I'm going to complain. I'm going to say that you take too long. Get to the point. It's like, no, don't watch my video. Literally go on my channel, watch my channel trailer where I explain that these are supposed to be like not just straight to the point videos, and you get the idea. But yeah, unfortunately, they don't care. They're used to like the shorts where somebody rips off your content. I mean, comes up with a totally different topic, just parallel thinking, and says it in 1 minute with barely any context or explanation because they assume you know everything, or because YouTube, you know, forces you to angle everything so that a phone would be able to watch in vertical mode for a minute, and then they barely even pay the people who make these and get millions and millions of views, and they have like the worst garbage CPM you could possibly imagine on their short videos. And then it's like, in order to get monetized, if you're a shorts YouTuber, you need like 10 million views. So meanwhile, they just basically make money off of 10 million of your views before they give you monetization. And even then, you barely make any money. Yeah, I don't see the point in doing shorts. I would much rather just talk about a subject I really enjoy for an extended period of time and actually explain what's happening than I ever would making a short for a minute. Doesn't really make sense to me. So here's Audition. Here's what the audio looks like for the new video I just recorded. And typically what I do with these videos is I will run them through a little bit of processes to try and make the sound more, I don't know, I just sound better. And what I do, for example, to make it uniform, so I try and chop off some of the, well, first off, I'll get rid of all the clicks and sounds like that. Then I'll like reduce the peaks on the audio, because you could see it's like peak here, you know, it's not really flat the way I like it in terms of like, you know, consistent volume. And for me, getting a consistent volume of my voice is not easy. You know, because I got that nice ASMR voice a lot of the time. Speaking of ASMR, let me dehydrate, in the words of Joey Diaz. This Laughingstock Media Monday is brought to you by H2O. And I don't mean the terrible Halloween movie either. So with this, let's see, I tend to find the baseline audio to get an overall average. And it looks like it's about negative 15 decibels. After all, this microphone can be rather quiet. It's usually way more quiet than this, but I turned it up by about 6 decibels so that I don't sound super quiet to all of you. Oh, I actually used the wrong setting, so let's fix that. Not that one either. Negative 15. So we'll take out some of these highs on here. Oh yeah, I actually, to be honest, even though I just cut a promo on shorts, I have considered doing more of the Dragon Ball Z ASMR. And this is to go even further beyond. What's he doing? Stop it now, Goku. Etc. Now I'll raise this to a height that I prefer. And then I will do this to drop some of those volume levels along as well. And we are done with the audio editing. It used to take me so much longer to edit the audio. Sometimes I would take weeks to edit my audio because I want to get everything as perfect as possible. But then I was also doing voiceovers. With voiceovers, I'm not on camera, so it's a lot easier in some ways to mess with the audio when I'm not on camera, because the fact that you don't have to see me jumping around all over the place because I'm doing jump cuts. But nonetheless, just edited that audio. And now I go into the video itself. I'm not going to add the whole video tonight, by the way. It's going to take a little bit. Go back in so you can see the audio actually changed. And then all I got to do is start making them cuts.
Hey guys.
Yeah, making videos for me used to be so much more of a process, but
Into this video and hard.
but I but
I could definitely tell that a lot of people did not work from.
yeah, so the point I was making is that I've started to min-max. It's an advice I give for everyone when it comes to making content.
Okay, so let's
Min-max that, because the fact of the matter is that, well, why put in way more effort than you're going to get a return on, and why make something that's supposed to be fun a miserable slog? Well, you don't have to, because you could just min-max. Reduce the things that you don't like in the process, and then in turn make the other parts more more enjoyable. So for me, I could just sit in my my office that I have all set up the way I like it, although I'm going to be tweaking it more as time goes along, and enjoy myself, make videos the way I like to. There have been days where I've gone and I've just recorded videos all day long. The what is it? The record I have right now, I think, is about 11 videos in one day. That was pretty tough, but I did it, and you know, it was a challenge. You know, for me earlier this year, I set a bunch of challenges that I kept changing over the course of them. One of them was that I actually what is it? I actually set a goal for myself that I wanted to make 2 videos in one day. Little did I know that within a couple months I'd be making 11 in one day. And recording and editing in their entirety from start to finish, while also making thumbnails. I think I did between 4 and 6.
AKA disposable.
So yeah, it's sometimes these days can be quite long, as you could say. Oh, I didn't know that Chuck was streaming right now. I haven't talked to him in a little while, but we recorded a video a while back and I never put it out. Maybe I consider doing another video with him in the future. I don't know if I'd want to do a remake of that video, but I don't. Does Chuck do on-screen stuff now? Is he still is he still entirely off-screen? It's not like it's impossible for me to do on-screen, off-screen videos. Like I just did that one with Quaman, and at the same time, I also, by the way, if you're wondering, I actually have learned how to edit videos based upon sight, so I don't even have to hear the video most of the time. I just like to hear it just in case. You know, it's a little helpful, but I could just see the audio and know immediately where I need to cut. That's what happens when you get so used to like staring at the matrix code basically all day. You know, you start to see blonde, brunette, redhead. I mean, you start to see where you take the cuts.
And you guys can check out in the top right corner. You guys can check out in the top.
All right, and I put these little markers in here too for me to keep track of the cards. Then all I gotta do is drop them in there, and boom, you know, I'll be good to go. Make sure I'm.
This even more in depth in the video. What is the multiplier?
There we go. Base Kaioken multiplier card. And so I dropped the card right then and there. I don't know if I got up to 5 for this video. Sometimes I add extra cards anyway because, you know, they give us 5. Why not use all of them, right? Has Quinn ever done a face reveal? Yeah, he did one like 5 years ago, maybe more. And he might have removed it from the channel. I feel like he probably did. Yeah, so I'm not really gonna get into why, but you know, I don't think he, you know, the thing is at the end of the day that he's able to make his videos however he wants. I've discussed this with him very in depth in the past. So, you know, if he wants to make videos the way he does it, if that's the style he prefers, then he's able to, but we've had conversations about it.
By using his Ken with even hot during one.
Yeah, so I'm actually just mostly doing the superficial cuts right now.
With his Kaioken. Now, what better of later on? At first, Goku is a. Now, when the fight begins, Vegeta is still stronger than Goku. Later on.
Okay.
At first, Goku.
One take, no mistake. Well, you can't see those mistakes in the video.
Now, when
Yeah. That's kind of the running gag here, I guess you could say.
the top right corner.
I actually save all my videos too, by the way. Every single video I've ever made. Maybe there's a handful of ones like on Laughingstock Cinema. I wasn't able to because of space and stuff, but you know, I try and save every video I've ever made, all the original source files, everything, because in the future maybe I'll do remastered versions or I'll do like expanded ones, stuff like that.
Check this one for a second. Goku's training. So during Goku's training, now in the next arc.
So this video, oh, hit the wrong button there. I had another little happy accident there. That'll be our little secret. Sometimes I want to channel my inner Bob Ross when I'm making these videos. So you see that clip right there? That clip doesn't exist anymore. We're gonna put a nice big tree right there. Isn't that nice? But yeah, nonetheless, you know, hopefully this, for anyone who's making YouTube videos or who is planning to or just is interested about the process, hopefully this is interesting for you guys because, you know, this is basically what I do all day, every day. Well, that's not all I do. This is something I do all the time in terms of making content. I've been making videos for 20 years now, probably longer actually. Depends on what you define as a video, I guess. And I've been doing it way before I started to do YouTube. I used to work in movies and everything is self-taught. You know, I didn't go to film school or anything like that. I just taught myself how to do everything on multiple different programs. And, you know, I worked on movies independently, but you know, I picked up some minor technical skills doing that. But the thing is, I did all that for free too. You know, for me, it was just about it was about learning. So I went to work on movies for free. I was like, you know what? I don't care if I make any money. At least I'll be able to network. I'll be able.
Which I don't think Goku ever did, except for, you know, Nappa. You know.
All right, let's do this right here. This could be a close up. There are certain things I say during a video. I'm like, you know what? Maybe this should get a close up just for the comedic value. Sorry that you guys have to look so closely at my face. Hopefully you don't have any mirrors nearby. I don't want to break them all. Also, if you got, hopefully I don't want to break, I'm not going to be breaking any of your hearts either, ladies.
Hurt him, but rather
Nah. But anyway,
we actually recording this video, which is already 14 minutes. Stops really.
I think with my last video with Kwame, I had about like 7 intermittent conversations with him in between recording the video. So it was like 2 minutes. Is this video even gonna last 20 minutes? We're coming down to the wire, guys. I don't know. What movies did I work on? Just independent movies. You would never have heard of them. Maybe at some point I'll show. I don't know if I can. I mean, I could do whatever I want, but I don't know if I should show the video I did extra work on, because, like, you know, I don't quite know what the rights are with regard to that, but there were some videos I did extra work on. I acted on. There were movies, actually, and then there are ones that I did technical stuff on, like lighting, set decoration, PA work. I directed shorts and wrote movies, and you know, there's a lot of feature stuff that I wanted to do over the years too. I've written tons of movies that I've wanted to make.
Now, actually, something holding Goku back from utilizing this.
So yeah, like there are tons of movies I've wanted to make on my own over the years that I just never, I never really got to, for whatever reason or another. But in the future, there are certain movies I would still like to make if I get the opportunity to do so. A lot of the movies I plan to make aren't very high budget, so I think it wouldn't be too difficult for me to pull it off, but I might end up spending a lot of my life working on my,
Unfortunately, it's not in the top right corner.
I'm gonna use the zoom for that too. I might spend a lot of my life working on my own franchise, depending upon how fast I write. Sometimes I'm like George R. R. Martin with my writing speed. So, with that being said, you know, I'm gonna probably be adapting that. You know, I want to like adapt my stuff I'm making to like every medium. So like, they're starting as books, the franchise, but you know, I'm going to do live action, animation, video games. Like, I have all that in mind. So, you know, hopefully people will enjoy it so that I can do that. But
Much like during the tournament.
okay, I think it was during the hit one, but
Much like in the Universe 6 tournament, much like in the Tournament to Power.
I think it is the Universe 6 tournament, but I'll figure it out at some point.
Much like in the Tournament to Power.
Like I said, I'm not going to totally finish editing the video tonight because I'm going to have to rewatch it, and you know, I'm going to have to like do a bunch of extra tweaks after this initial edit and stuff like that. So, you know, I just wanted to give you guys an idea of what it looks like whenever I edit a video. Maybe I'll show you guys kind of how I make a thumbnail, because that's going to be a much faster process. It's going to be mostly coming down to like figuring out which image I prefer for the presentation. But then again, maybe I'll record another video. What do you guys want to see? You want me to record another video? This one's going to be for my second channel, though, Laughingstock Cinema.
In the tournament. It might have been in the Tournament to Power that they actually the Universe 6. However,
there's a very strong chance this is going to be under. This is going to be under, what is it, 20 minutes. We'll see.
except for
Am I Ryan Gosling? Yeah. I was in all those chick flick movies. Eat, Pray, Love, I think. The Notebook.
except for
Emma Stone was really nice. You know, I alpha widowed her.
The continuity, except for, however,
Did you guys like my song in the new Barbie?
except for, however, Goku never. However, in the story, Goku.
Do you like it when I talk like this, or do you like it when or do you prefer my normal? Okay, guys, so in this video, we're going to be discussing Dragon Ball Z.
Than it would have been as a,
Yeah. You're literally Ryan Gosling. Okay, cool. Well, nice to have you, Ryan. I like your movies. I always wanted to have you actually play a villain in one of my movies. I thought that would have been really interesting. Totally different than you would expect for a typical Ryan Gosling performance. Also, one of the characters from my book series I think would be cool to have Ryan Gosling play. I have a character in mind, although ironically you won't actually see his face for the vast majority of the franchise. But
with that being said,
I should not even said but. I should have just been like, but, you know, hold on.
but with that being said,
I don't know if you guys can even hear my audio right now. Hopefully you can on the computer and there isn't a ridiculous echo. But yeah, also, when's Drive 2 coming out, Ryan? Because I want to see that one with, like, the evil driver that's, like, Moriarty, like Refn explained.
and that comes at the time version leading up to the fight.
His Netflix movie was good. I didn't see that. Was it The Gray Man? It looked pretty good. No, I've seen most of Ryan Gosling's movies. I would have said all of them, but I did not see the Barbie movie. I don't really have much interest in seeing it, to be honest, but I don't know. I feel like if I ever watched a Barbie movie on my own, that would
Now this shocks everyone.
that would be a little much. I'd have to somebody would have to pay me to watch the movie, or I'd have to be wasted or something if I watched that movie. I had a choice, Barbie or Oppenheimer. I saw Oppenheimer in 70mm in New York City, and I was very happy to.
Now this shocks everyone, especially Dr. Giro.
Drive 2. I'm going to drive again. May 2069. I mean, some people will say that Only God Forgives is technically Drive 2, and it's like a spiritual successor, but I want an actual successor. I want Ryan Gosling to have staring contests with people for 15 minutes while he doesn't say anything, and then drive his car really fast and then kick somebody's face in.
Drawn, what kind of train did he go?
Hey, who told you to come over here and talk to me? You say something again, I'm going to kick your teeth down your throat. Okay, Mr. Gosling. I'm just a PA on the movie, but okay. I drive.
Well,
Yeah, you do, Mr. Gosling. Please don't kill me.
like
Puts a toothpick in his mouth. So many memes came out of that.
it's
One of my favorite was actually where they combined the Bane meme from The Dark Knight Rises. Oh. What is going on here? Am I live? Can you guys see the stream? Let me know in the live chat. I don't know why it would be buffering. I have good internet. Probably because I'm doing so many things on my computer at once, but if it's working, well, we'll keep going. All right, perfect. Seems like everyone's saying it's fine. No, I'm not live. Well, I would have had to have, you would have had to have heard that. I'm not that dumb.
It sounds exactly like.
Let's get those likes on the stream, guys. 69 likes. I know that that's a number people want to break, but nonetheless.
With none of the downsides. In other words, Piccolo. In other words.
Once I do the preliminary, I'm going to start my next video.
In other words, Piccolo is able to.
Hey, stop messing up, Mike. It's time for you to make the video.
In other words, Piccolo is able to exponentially given time during a fight, where he's.
I need to work. One of the things I'm trying to improve is making the transitions more natural. But it could be tough. There's a lot of things that are really tough when it comes to recording when you want to make everything sound natural. Because like you go into like the zone when you're making a video, for example. So it's kind of hard to like. You have to. It's kind of like learning Ultra Instinct. I'll compare it to where I've tried to make things as natural as possible over time, but it could definitely be a little difficult.
Doesn't Goku and anyone else? So why did Goku stop using the Kaioken and then what happens? Well, they can utilize it. Men turn any given point. And then what?
Okay, almost done.
And then in turn what happens? Well, they can simply do the exact same thing without. But what do you got?
This is where I'll put like the subscribe thing and, you know, little overlay, crop my footage.
In the future.
And no video of mine would end correctly without a special cameo from a special character. He tells me to always call him special, otherwise he'll crush me, which is Harold.
Future. Yeah, and you better subscribe.
There we go. Credit to Tomislav for doing the art for that. And as of right now, the video is about 22 minutes and 10 seconds long. I'm sure I'll cut it down a little bit more after this, but nonetheless, the fact of the matter is this is kind of like what it looks like when I'm doing my preliminary edits, and I'm sure I'll be adding some other visuals and some other things like that along the way. But before I record my next video, I'm going to take a brief intermission, and I will be right back. So thank you guys, and give me one moment. Okay. Another question too is like, what what time overall would you guys say is like, I don't know, I guess the best for you when it comes to streaming? Because for me, I'm just like experimenting with different times to stream on the channel. I don't know if later is better, earlier. You know, I tend to be able to stream later at night. So, you know, I've noticed that I seem to have more people showing up sometimes for like the late night streams. You know, like my test stream was at like 11. You know, a lot of people showed up, and same thing with some of my other streams. So, you know, I guess let me know what you guys think in the comments on the video if you're watching afterward or at this point in the stream. The thing is, too, another thing to keep in mind, or that I've noticed, is a lot of times a stream doesn't even get promoted until a while into the stream. So hey, Crest Spawner, how you doing? Thanks, Zanza X. I appreciate that. I appreciate everyone who watches the full video. You know, in this day and age, I know it can be hard to watch any full videos or movies or stuff because, you know, we're so trained to multitask. But wow, you're on your way to work at 4:16. That's tough. You know, respect for that. I actually gotta get up really early tomorrow too, but you know, I'm still working, burn the midnight oil almost. So let me record this video, and then, you know, I'll have a little bit of time after that to chat with you guys, and I'm gonna get going. I try not to have these go too long, you know. I feel like eventually there starts to be a kind of a drop off at some point, but you know, I'm playing with it by ear. This is the 3rd edition of the LSM Monday, and I've also been doing more and more as time has gone on. So, you know, fact of the matter is, let's keep getting it going. Also, from what I remember, did they add like a kind of raid feature too on live streams where you could send people from like one stream to another after you're done? But yeah, my test stream is at 1. I seem to recall it running from 11 my time, but I don't know. It was weeks ago. What's my favorite Wolverine suit? Yellow and blue, X-Force, or gold and brown? I mean, I like the classic, like yellow and blue. I mean, the yellow and black is cool. The X-Force or the golden brown. Is the golden brown from Wolverine the X-Men? I mean, I like most of his outfits. The ones I thought were the most lacking were in the live action movies. Like the fact, I guess we're going to finally get it in Deadpool. Hopefully he actually wears the hat and helmet and everything, the mask. But that was one of the biggest things I was always disappointed with the live action X-Men movies, where, you know, put them in their comic accurate suits. We got kind of close to that in Apocalypse, the very ending, and also First Class, but, you know, there's raids for Twitch. I thought that there also were on YouTube now, but I guess maybe not. Yeah, no problem, Vindicator. X-Force is black and gray. Okay. Maybe I like that one. I don't really remember. Like I said, there's a lot of the suits I like. You know, it's kind of like the overall design for me is what works the most, not necessarily the colors. You know, if you gave Wolverine like a blue and white suit or something, it would still work depending upon how you implement the colors. You know, it's like Batman of Zur-En Arn, you know, like, even though he's wearing a purple outfit, that, you know, purple and yellow, like, it still works for me because I like the overall design of Batman. You know, Batman is, I'm going to do a whole video about this at some point too. Batman is like one of the perfect characters in fiction and really superheroes because of his evolution, adaptation, and ability to sustain all of them and usually still be great. But let me pull this up here, Jamie, and we'll get into my review. Okay. I'm going to do a review for Laughingstock Cinema. How's it going? So take some of this stuff off the screen. Way too much stuff right in the background. Spider-Man. Spider-Man does whatever a Spider-Man can. Can he swing from a web? Yes, he can. Are you stupid? Watch out! Here comes Spider-Man. Oh God, he's dead. The Punisher showed up, and he knew that bullets were his only weakness. Bullets, my only weakness. How did he know? 11:30. I'm assuming that's PM. Wow. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, you know. Sometimes you just got to work a long time. You know, I've been working, I don't know, since I woke up. Something like that. I think I took an hour off or two. Gotta keep on the grind, especially in this day and age. It's going to help prepare us for the zombie apocalypse that's going to come in a couple of years when we're all actually able to utilize that wealth for something of worth. Although, you know, when when they completely obliterate the value of the dollar very soon, it's going to all vanish anyway. Buy physical commodities, everybody. And thank me in the morning. And this is not legally advice, by the way, just in case somebody tries to sue me. I do not know what I'm talking about in any way, shape, or form. Okay. Let's do this. Right now. Hey guys, it's Mike here, and in this video, I'm going to be discussing one of my favorite film series of all time, starring one of my favorite superheroes of all time, which is the original Tobey Maguire, Sam Raimi Spider-Man trilogy, which I actually went back and rewatched in its entirety this week. And instead of doing a marathon review, because I didn't watch them all sequentially like I often do, what I decided to do was I'm going to be reviewing each of the Sam Raimi Spider-Man trilogy individually. And of course, I'm going to begin with where it all started with the original Spider-Man movie starring Tobey Maguire. And with regard to this movie, going into it when I was a kid, I honestly had pretty high expectations. I was already a big Spider-Man fan at that point in time, with him being one of my favorite superheroes, and I had seen all the cartoons up until that point, including the 60s one, and the one where everyone's pointing at each other and has all the memes on the internet in the subsequent years. And also, of course, the radioactive Spider-Man, which was my favorite of the bunch. And I had read some of the comics, so by the time I saw the movie, I was hoping it was going to be good. And quite frankly, I loved it going in. Aside from a few things here and there by the time I left the theater, which I'll be discussing here because there are still a couple things along the way that I don't quite think worked as well in the initial movie. But I'm going to be getting into that. Before I do though, however, if you're new to this channel, consider subscribing and enabling all notifications. That way you can stay up to date with all of my future videos coming here on Laughingstock Cinema. How's it going? Additionally, make sure to leave your own Additionally, make sure to leave your own thoughts. Nope, I just said that. Additionally, make sure to leave a like on this video, share this video out, and continue to stay for the entire duration. That way, you'll help this channel to go even further beyond to Excelsior levels, to quote the late great Stan Lee. But with all that being said, let's get into the review. So what I'm going to be doing here is what I often do in these videos with this new style, which is I'm going to be pulling up the IMDb, taking a look at everyone in the cast as well as the crew, and not just that, but we're going to be getting even deeper into some of the ideas, concepts, story elements, and that much more along the way. So let's get into that right now. Yeah, I own all of the Spider-Man movies on Blu-ray. I want to get them on 4K, though. I'll probably do it soonish. I'm waiting for Prime Day, probably, to get some of that stuff. The heck? Where is this? What is happening right now? Did my window just disappear on me? That was weird. Sometimes the OBS and Alt tab doesn't recognize things. Here we go. Okay, so getting into Spider-Man, let's first talk about the cast. Of course, beginning with Tobey Maguire as Spider-Man. And for me, of course, like I just said before, I had a lot of expectations going into this movie with regard to Spider-Man himself. However, I think that overall, Tobey did an amazing job as Spider-Man in this movie. And I'll get into some of the other casts too. Now, the thing is that a lot of people might either not like Tobey Maguire or like a lot of his take on the story, in large part because the fact that, well, when you look at the movie, especially by today's standard and lens, it's quite a bit different in terms of one key thing, which is tone. Nowadays, most comic book movies that come out, they are very serious. They're taking themselves way too serious, in fact, a lot of the time, where everything has to be grounded, it has to be down to earth, everyone has to act like normal people that they do in our real world. But when you actually look at the original Spider-Man trilogy by Sam Raimi, it's very clear that Raimi, Tobey Maguire, and the people on the movies really embraced the source material, because the fact that comics are supposed to be kind of goofy, kind of wacky, kind of campy, especially Spider-Man and other characters like Batman, stuff like that, who were introduced during periods of time when we were seeing a lot of camp in there. These are characters at the end of the day dressed up in colorful outfits, and they are punching each other. They're, fighting for cities. They're doing a lot of things which you could argue are really over the top and kind of ridiculous depending upon how you're looking at it. So the fact that these movies decide to fully embrace that, including with kind of ridiculous dialogue along the way, some of which I'm not the biggest fan of, and I feel like the dialogue some of which I'm not necessarily the biggest fan of, and I feel like the dialogue is one of the weak points of this movie at times, because it could be a little bit too on the nose and in your face. Like, for example, when they first introduce Uncle Ben and Aunt May, and their first opening scene is basically explaining how their characters are in like one scene in like a kind of obvious fashion. But nonetheless, the fact, and of course, some of the one-liners that Spider-Man says to Goblin, like calling him Gobby and stuff like that. But nonetheless, I really love how this film was not afraid of the source material and just decided to go all in with it. Of course, not everything is necessarily one-to-one with the original story, and I'll definitely get into that with some of the other characters. But nonetheless, the fact of the matter is that I think that this ended up just working out great. And one of the biggest things that I think about, especially nowadays, and I notice the huge similarities between, is this and also the Christopher Reeve Donner Superman movies. Let me actually pull that up right here. And let's stop this trailer because I don't feel like getting a copyright claim by Sony. where these movies are also very true to the source material in terms of tone, in terms of being a little bit campy. I mean, for example, we have a scene where Superman literally turns himself in a track so that train can go over him. They were not afraid to embrace the more earnest nature of Superman, of the characters, making him the quote-unquote Boy Scout, and having everything work in that way. MJ's for the streets. I'll get into that. And the Spider-Man movies by Sam Raimi really embrace the same thing. I mean, there are a lot of similarities between Spider-Man and Superman, after all. Like, for example, the fact that they both kind of are young people who have superpowers that have to deal with real life and also their powers at the same time, who both are reporters that work for, like, the Daily Bugle or the Daily Planet. There's a lot of those similarities between the two characters that must have had inspiration taken from Stan Lee. Why am I having a brain fart about everyone's names? I'll just add in afterward. Which must have had a lot of inspiration for the creators of Spider-Man when they originally put everything into print on the comics. And I think that this was a great way to go. It's kind of like what we see more recently with the original Captain America, the first Avenger movie, where again, it embraced the source material, although it did deviate a little bit more, just like some of these did in certain degrees. Now, I think that Toby is an excellent kind of embodiment of that tone, and so too are so many of the extras that Sam Raimi has in the movies along the way, so many of the different characters that he introduces. And in terms of the other performances as well, of course, we have the great performances brought by the actors for Uncle Ben and Aunt May, which are Steve Ditko. That's one of the creators, if I remember correctly, actually. Cliff Robertson and Rosemary Harris, who did a great job. We also have James Franco playing Harry Osborn, the younger Harry Osborn at this point, before he eventually becomes the Hobgoblin in the comics and cartoons. And then, we see what happens later on in the movies as well. And we even have Willem Dafoe, who plays, and we also have, of course, Willem Dafoe, who does an amazing job as not only Norman Osborn, but also the Green Goblin. And he does an amazing job of switching seamlessly between the two characters in scenes, which are basically like straight out of Lord of the Rings with Gollum and Smeagol talking to one another. And Willem Dafoe did the exact same thing in terms of switching between scenes. I mean, there's so much of this trilogy too, which is kind of funny when you think about the inspirations that Sam Raimi took. They're straight out of Shakespeare, straight out of Hamlet, especially come the second movie and beyond, where essentially we have eventually Norman Osborn serving as the Spectre that leads the character of Harry instead of Hamlet to try and take revenge. But nonetheless, the fact of the matter is that he does a great job as the villain. And the only thing I'll say in terms of the weakness for me, and it always was this even when I was a kid, and I think a lot of people might agree, especially nowadays, is the look of the Green Goblin suit. Because the fact of the matter is that they had a way better looking suit that they were testing before they actually made it to screen. And unfortunately, the one that we end up getting ends up looking like, a Power Rangers villain or something like that. It doesn't look anywhere near as good as the awesome Tobey Maguire textured textile suit and that we see on screen, or some of the other live action portrayals. And so I always have been a little bit disappointed in the look of the original Green Goblin suit, but nonetheless, Willem Dafoe does such a great job in the role as the villain that it leads to it, not being that big of a deal, even though, like I said, the Spider-Man suit is significantly better looking when it comes to being on screen. I also really like how in this movie he actually designs the suit and we see everything play out that way. And not just that, but also that they did a really interesting kind of change from the comics where Spider-Man shoots out webs from his body instead of from his web shooters that he creates. I like the web shooters and the concept, and also gives him more of a limitation if he runs out of the web fluid. But nonetheless, I think that it also kind of plays into the ideas and the themes of puberty that Peter's going through, that he suddenly starts shooting out white strings everywhere. Especially that scene where Aunt May tries to go to his room and it's covered in the webs, and he's like, oh, you don't come in. It's like, I wonder what Sam Raimi was going for there. Funny enough though, based upon different backstage, based upon like interviews and stuff like that, from what I've heard, and from what I saw, Sam Raimi and Tobey Maguire actually didn't really get along that well when they were making the movies, which led to him wanting to recast Tobey in the second movie with Leonardo DiCaprio. But I'll get into that when it finally comes. But nonetheless, for me, I think that Tobey does an awesome job in the role, playing that earnest, nerdy, and a little bit campy, it's somewhat over the top type of Spider-Man, in the exact same way that we also see what's wrong with me today? In the exact same way that we also see Christopher Reeve putting in an amazing performance for not only the Clark Kent, but Superman aspects of his Superman portrayal, where he did that amazing, iconic job. And also, we can't forget how awesome the performance was when it comes to J. Jonah Jameson. I can't think of any names today. I'm getting annoyed. I know his name, J.K. Simmons, right? Like what? Like I usually know like all these names off the top of my head. I must be tired. Yeah, J.K. Simmons. Here we go. And we also can't forget about the amazing performance in these movies by J.K. Simmons as J. Jonah Jameson, who he's so great in the role that they literally couldn't even recast him in the future movies. They still had to keep bringing this guy back, even in other adaptations of Spider-Man. And every time he's on screen, it's awesome and it's hilarious. And that's one of the things with these movies. They are way funnier than probably any of the other Spider-Man movies. Despite being earnest, despite still having emotional beats, they have really funny moments. In some of the future movies, they go a little bit too far with the humor, especially in the third one, which I'll get into when I review it. But nonetheless, the fact of the matter is that, the humor, the direction, everything is on point in these movies. But with that being said, I feel like the first one is a lot more subdued in many of those ways compared to what is to come in the future, particularly with regard to Sam Raimi and his kind of over-the-top direction. He definitely gets to express more of his, let's say, horror movie inspirations and things before this film, or after this film rather, with the sequels. After all, he was the one who directed the Evil Dead movies, and he is just always having a really... And he always is putting out some really fun movies for the most part, with even, the most recent Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness is a movie I end up really enjoying, in large part because of the direction of Sam Raimi and everything that he had on display there, which he's a little more restrained in this movie, but definitely gets to do a lot more of what he made a name for in these subsequent films, especially when he's dialing up the horror aspects, although they certainly do have some here and there in this movie, particularly with scenes with the Green Goblin. Now, with that being said, I do want to talk about the character of Mary Jane in this movie, because she tends to be a negative for a lot of people when it comes to the overall trilogy. When it comes to MJ and her performance and portrayal by Kirsten Dunst, I think that she does a fine job as MJ. she basically works well with the version of the character that they're telling in the movies. The version of MJ in the movies is a lot different from what we end up seeing in the comics and the cartoons. And a lot of that, she comes from a broken home with an abusive family. So basically it comes down to a lot of it where she's kind of seeking validation at a constant basis throughout the course of the Toby trilogy. And it ends up causing issues for the two of them, especially when she, has a thing already for Peter and, he's in love with her. And then we start to see, Harry, for example, at points in the movie kind of like getting, revenge on him because the fact that Harry is, not as beloved by his father as he wants to be, which is his whole motivation really to earn his father's love and respect. And then he starts to date MJ, who Peter is getting the affection from his father. And so, there's a lot of that kind of love triangle aspect that goes throughout these movies, especially considering the fact that MJ doesn't know that Peter is Spider-Man for the first, movie and a half. If you'd want to say that long, you could argue at the end of this movie, she starts to figure it out and piece it together. She pulls the whole she pulls the whole Princess Leia thing. I knew the entire time in the second movie, but nonetheless, in this one, I feel like the relationship dramas and stuff are something I'm not a fan of at all in this movie or this entire trilogy. And, the fact that MJ is constantly trying to do things to kind of get revenge on Peter at different points and try and, get back at him and things. I don't like that portrayal as much as like the awesome, supportive, loving MJ that we get to see in the comics and the cartoons, who kind of just hits it off with Peter right away. But I understand that they're trying to show Peter as like a outcast, a nerdy, kind of down his luck kid who has a really heart of gold despite, being seen as a loser by people and bullied and stuff, and gets this power, and he has to use the iconic line of, with great power comes great responsibility, and then in turn, try and win over the girl who's like the pretty girl that he's always been in love with since he met her and stuff. But at the same time, I do prefer the other portrayal of MJ way more than this. And I do not mean the one from the Tom Holland movies, because that one is much worse than this one as far as I'm concerned. And other than that, I think the biggest problem I always had with the movie is the ending. Not only do we get the death of the Green Goblin, which for me is something that, I kind of wish that he had survived, because one of the things is that I always like in the comics and cartoons when we have recurring characters, and then when the villains are like, teaming up with other villains or having new plans and things like that. But one of the big things that we saw throughout so many superhero movies, even until recently, but especially back then, is that they would always kill the villain off, and that always kind of disappointed me. Not just that, but also the other ending, which comes afterward, involving Mary Jane, in the fact that she and Spider-Man do not end up together like they do in the comics and the cartoons. Instead, they decide to once again stretch out the whole like romance drama situation, and then at that point, it led to it simply not working out quite, the way it should have, where it's like, oh, I'm sorry, but I can only be with you as a friend, because, Peter was afraid that Mary Jane would not want to be with him anymore, because Peter was afraid that if a villain found out about MJ and that he was in love with her and that they were together and stuff, it would lead to them attacking her, despite the fact that she still gets attacked in every single movie and held hostage or something, even though he's not going out with her. And, it just keeps happening. I just never liked that. I thought it was forced, and something that even when I was a kid, I was like, are you kidding me? And, was not something I enjoyed. Now, another thing, too, is some of the CGI does not really hold up, especially with this movie. The CGI gets better as the movies go on, but you could definitely tell this was CGI from 20-ish years ago, so it wasn't really going to stand the test of time. The practical effects, for the most part, are great, and when it comes to those, Sam Raimi does a great job with those in all of his films, dating back to The Evil Dead, Army of Darkness, everything like that. But the fact of the matter is, in this movie, too much CGI, too much rubbery Spider-Man, rubbery Peter when he's doing his moves and stuff like that. However, this can't be complete also. Now, however, this review can't be complete, and neither can the pros and cons, without me talking about the amazing score by Danny Elfman, which, really shows you just how great the scores were for superhero movies back in the day, compared to a lot of them that come out today, which are really bland and just, don't really have anything stand out. The themes by Danny Elfman in this movie are great. Danny Elfman also did the Batman movie with Tim Burton, of course, which led to the creation of the Batman the Animated Series intro. And, he's done a lot of great work over the years on these films, especially the films of Tim Burton too. And so he did a great job and, really made the movie get risen to another level with that awesome score. I don't necessarily like the score that he does in every movie, or at least some of the tracks, which I'll definitely get more into in my future reviews. But nonetheless, I think he did an amazing job and deserves a lot of credit for his overall work on this film. All right, let's see. What's the score for this on here? 7.4? Maybe? Let me stop this stupid trailer again. I always gonna love to play their auto trailer. It's like when you go on Netflix, like you can't just like look at things on there. They have to force you to look at a trailer, and it like slows everything down. Now, in terms of this movie, it does currently have a 7.4 score on IMDb. In terms of that rating, I'm not sure that I would necessarily say it would be a 7.4, at least a 7.5, which I know is kind of splitting hairs there. Maybe up to an 8, although like I said, it isn't quite as great for me as the subsequent film, but it was a great start, an iconic beginning, and something overall I think did an excellent job of setting Spider-Man into live action, much like the original X-Men movies did, even if they didn't live up to the same quality of like the cartoons and stuff, and films of this time also like Blade. But all right, guys, this has been my review of the original Spider-Man movie with Tobey Maguire and directed by Sam Raimi. Overall, I still think it's a really good movie, something that I definitely recommend for fans of Spider-Man, comic book movies, and just fun action movies from this time. Just keep in mind it was made in the early 2000s, has some of those early 2000 isms, and, it has a number of other things going for it that, you might kind of be like, oh, the effects don't look quite as good or this or that. However, I do honestly feel like early 2000s comic book movies have a certain charm that most of the movies today simply do not have, either because of their stronger direction, their less reliance on cinematic universes, their more quirky and campy nature. Whatever it is, I plan to do a video about that more in depth in the future. But with that being said, guys, if you're new to this channel, consider subscribing and enabling all notifications. Thanks for watching, and make sure to stick around, because there's a lot more to come in the future. Okay. Video 2 down. What do you guys think about the original Spider-Man movie? Where do you guys compare it? Not just among Spider-Man, I guess not just among superhero movies or your favorite movies, but among Spider-Man movies. Especially considering we've had like every other Spider-Man movie come out since then. So it's like, do you think it's, comparable to any of the ones that came afterward? Do you think it's at the level, or do you think they all just got better from here? I definitely don't, but you guys can let me know in the chat, and also in the comments after the video. If you guys are still watching this, wow. I'm glad I gave you hours of entertainment. This is the longest LSM Monday yet. And yes, it was Steve Ditko. That's what I was thinking of. But then I was thinking, is Steve Ditko a more modern writer who worked on it? Or was it like, trying to think, what was the other creator of Spider-Man 2? Because the thing is, like, depending upon who you ask, like, it wasn't Stan Lee who necessarily created Spider-Man. It was like Steve Ditko, and I'm trying to remember what his name was. I saw a whole documentary about it years ago. But, names never been my strongest suit, as you guys probably have figured out at this point. I was having so many brain farts during this recording because I'm like, how am I forgetting Christopher Lee? Christopher Reeve's name, how am I forgetting? J.K. Simmons, you know, when I've seen so many movies with these people in them, and like I've seen the original Superman movies so many times. I don't know. Even recently, I rewatched them. The brain is an amazing thing. Yeah, I will be reviewing Spider-Man 2 and 3 in the next, I don't know, tomorrow or something. I'll figure it out. I'm not going to review any more today. I got to get up earlier, so probably going to cut it off within the next few minutes. So any other questions you guys might have, let me know, and then I am going to get to go. Yeah, I mean, I rewatched all 3 of them, and yet for some reason, and yeah, I guess I forgot to do the intro part too. That's another thing I should have mentioned. There's so many things, like when you're doing a video off the top of your head, sometimes you just forget things, like even points that you like make mental notes of. I used to like make so many notes in my phone when I was doing, like when I was watching movies and I was planning to do reviews. Like I'd make so many notes, but nowadays I just try and do it all off the top of my head. Let me do that real quick. It's an addition. Another thing I also really like about this movie and the superhero movies from the time is that they used to have really in-depth intros, almost kind of like a Bond movie or, you know, a film of an earlier era. We had that for Spider-Man. We had that for the X-Men movies. And so many films around that time did them. And I've always kind of been disappointed with the loss of intros when it comes to many films over the years. You know, they really can set the mood and set the tone for the film that's coming out, but so too often everyone wants to get immediately into the meat or the substance of the film. And, you know, it really goes to show you the difference in, it really goes to show you the difference. And it really goes to show you the difference in pacing between modern movies compared to back then, because there are so many scenes in these original Spider-Man movies that would have been sped up several times comparatively, because they would probably be afraid that people are getting too bored because they spend 2 extra seconds watching somebody standing somewhere before he punches somebody or does something else. There we go. I'll put both of those into my folders so I can review them, or so I can edit them and drop my review tomorrow on Laughingstock Cinema. It'll probably go up a little bit later tomorrow though, because for some reason every time I upload a video on there I have to wait an extra 2 hours for it to process so I could actually publish it. Sometimes they'll hit me with the 1 hour and 45 minutes or 1 hour and 59 minutes or something. I left the room and I come back in and then I have to wait extra time because it's like I want to upload a video at the start of the hour. And it's like, damn it, if I just got back in the room 3 minutes ago, I would have been able to have it all ready to go. I guess it doesn't really matter that much. Yeah, I mean, typically when a movie reminds you of a PS2 game, it's not necessarily the best. It's kind of like when I remember when I watched Final Fantasy: The Spirits Within theaters, that was not a fun experience. I unfortunately own that movie on video or on Blu-ray, I think, because I was planning to do a video on it. It was actually gonna be one of my first videos ever on Laughingstock Media, and I just didn't make it. It was actually going to be, I think the first Herald video was going to be Final Fantasy: The Spirits Within. I was going to do a whole in-depth review, and I didn't make it. I don't know, maybe someday. Well, thank you, Biggie Cheese, but I am getting ready to bring this stream to a close. Before No Way Home, Danny review all the live-action Spider-Man movies on World of Geekdom. Yeah, that's something I've always kind of wanted to do as well, and I just never do it for, like, I just don't have the time, I guess. Like, I was going to review all of the Expendables movie leading up to the new Expendables, and then I saw all of them. I didn't review any of them, and then I didn't review the new Expendables. I thought it was terrible, but I didn't review it. Am I going to do a collab stream with Danny or Quaman? Whenever they're available, yeah. I want to have guests on here in the future. Talking myself for 3 hours is not always easy, especially when I'm tired. But, you know, I'll figure it out over time. You know, maybe I'll force myself to drink coffee. Ugh. You know, now I'm going to get a bunch of thumbs down from all the coffee fans. I'll have people on in the future, though, for sure. But all right, guys, thank you all for watching. I'm going to bring this stream to a close. And I appreciate everyone who showed up today. I appreciate the super chats here today from Xavier. Thank you so much for your questions and your super chats. And with all that being said, make sure to stick around, because there's a lot more to come in the future. And not just when it comes to videos, but also live streams, and who knows what else awaits